Chapter 641-dinner, please order. Wei Wei threw herself on the bed all of a sudden. Her pretty face was flushed, and a pair of delicate and small snow-white feet were constantly rolling and shaking. She looked very distressed, her hands resting on her cheeks, and her beautiful eyes were tangled. What should we do? Mr. Liang does not know the price of others. And, is there really such a price to be enforced? So, will Mr. Liang accept it? So annoying. Wei Wei's pretty face blushed, beautiful eyes are full of troubles. In the constant tumbling, she gradually fell into sleep. After being busy for a long time, her spirit is also exhausted. Soon, there was a uniform breathing sound. She was wearing loose pink casual clothes, revealing her fragrant shoulders as white as jade, and she could also see the two very spectacular groups. Her perfect figure allowed her to play the roles of angels and goblins. At the same time, the entire palace was plunged into a lively atmosphere. All the staff were preparing for the evening banquet. This time, the dinner party notified all high-level personnel in Alabasta to gather in the same place, which also expressed the welcome of everyone in the entire kingdom of Alabasta to Liang. After all, this is Liang. The national welcome is not a big deal. Liang was able to come to Alabasta and treat his injuries, which made Cobra feel grateful. It was understandable to hold a dinner party to entertain him. He thinks that Liang can show his face to participate in the dinner, which is already a very good thing for him. Therefore, the entire palace is preparing for the banquet. The kitchen is lively, and each chef is cooking, presenting the best dishes on the stage of tonight's dinner. Don't neglect, make sure to achieve the cleanest and most delicious. The quality must be the best. The guests we entertain tonight are all high-level personnel from the Kingdom of Alabasta. We cannot neglect anyone. Also, King Cobra appeared in person. It is said that this time, the king is going to entertain an overseas visitor. So, we have to work hard, understand? One of the stewards shouted solemnly with a worried expression on his face. Under his discipline, many people worked hard. No one dares to be lazy. Even he didn't dare to steal it. If these people under his hands were lazy and discovered by him, the consequences would be serious. No mistakes are allowed tonight. The order from King Cobra himself must be very serious. If what they did tonight is not satisfactory, then so many of them have an inescapable responsibility. Hurry up, it's almost time. People over there, have you prepared enough materials? If not, I will order people to purchase them now. Also, don't look at it, hurry up. There is not much time left for us, and these dishes must be kept at a balanced temperature and not cold. If King Cobra is not satisfied, let alone me, none of you can escape. So, do your best to satisfy King Cobra. Quote. A group of people are busy. And in the back garden of the palace, a group of people are already setting up an area. Take the plank, build it, and turn the back garden into a party-like place. Then use some colorful fabrics, hang them on wooden boards, move with the wind, and flutter in the wind, which is very beautiful. Boom, boom, boom. A crisp beating sound came out. Everyone is working hard and not being lazy. The person to deal with tonight is King Cobra. Chapter 641-dinner. NLT, 29 and GT. The person to deal with tonight is King Cobra. Moreover, there is a mysterious guest who they dare not neglect at all. Over there, come and help me. Several people carried a long table in the middle of the garden. On the desktop, there are also a lot of decorations, with piles of fresh fruit and pastries and desserts on top of the decorations. The whole venue looked quite luxurious. A tree is pushed here and placed in a specific position, so that the decoration here is fuller and less empty. The dinner party is equivalent to the existence of the party situation. The people who came tonight are all high-level personnel from Alabasta. Therefore, if they do things poorly, the consequences can be imagined. If you do something wrong in front of your immediate boss, their consequences can be quite serious. You have to make sure these structures are solid, understand? Flowers. A middle-aged man shouted with a serious face. If these structures fall down in the middle of the banquet, it will really be a big oolong. By then, the whole dinner party will be reduced to a joke. Not to mention how others will laugh at King Cobra when it spreads out. These people will definitely be directly imprisoned on serious charges. This time at the dinner party, there is no room for any mistakes. You must be serious, strengthen it, and even if it is difficult to disassemble after the event, you must ensure that tonight's dinner party can be carried out as always. Absolutely, there can be no accidents, do you understand? Don't worry, my lord, we must have done it neatly. Nothing will be missed, and no mistakes will be made. 0. Several men are talking to each other. Seeing the gradually forming dinner party, they also showed a relaxed smile. However, it is not enough. Some people have hung twinkling lights on those colorful fabrics, and at night, these lights will flash with different colors. That kind of scene is the real style. It is still under construction, and it will take some time to complete the task. By the way, Pato, where did you go? I don't know, I think he should go to buy materials. As soon as possible, we have to finish ahead of schedule. Then, use the rest of the time to check if there is anything missing from the dinner. And, the safety of what we've built. Don't worry, my lord, we are all very clear about this. Quote. A group of people are working hard to build. On the sky. A round of scorching sun also slowly fell in the west direction. The entire sky is no longer as dazzling as before. And in the Palace of Alabasta, the scene arrangement of the entire dinner party is also coming to an end. The rest of the time, in addition to cleaning up those extra things, is to check to see if there is anything missing and make remedies. Also, check the firmness of this dinner party, is it safe enough? After all these things were completed, the people among them were finally able to breathe. Finally, let them complete this task. Chapter 642-high-level officials have come. Dong dong dong. The door was knocked. Li Ang opened his eyes slightly, looked at Hancock, Tautu, and Tina lying beside him, laughed, and said, "Three little slackers, it's time to get up." Huh. Hancock, who was close to Li Ang, had long eyelashes trembling, opened his eyes, and looked at the ceiling with big eyes. His pretty face seemed a bit diffuse and cute. Li Ang couldn't help it because of this cute appearance. He stretched out his hand and pinched it and said with a smile, "It's time to wake up." You guy. Hancock patted Li Ang's hands, rolled his eyes. His delicate face, beautiful and moving, exuded a mature charm that Li Ang could not resist. In particular, the two regiments had grown to the point where Li Ang was amazed. Far away from each other, they were still touched by the soft two groups. Peach Rabbit, Tina. Li Ang stood up at once, walked to Tautu and T, 680 inches na, squatted down, patted them, and whispered. "Let me sleep a little longer." Tina's pink lips parted slightly, and she whispered to herself. She couldn't open her eyes. This made Li Ang's eyes flash, thinking about it. He squatted down slightly, and out of the corner of his eye swept to Tina's delicate snow-white little feet, and a wicked smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He stretched out his hand and scratched at Tina's snow-white soles. "Ah ha ha ha." Tina jumped up with a swish, her pretty face blushed, and she couldn't hide her laughter. She glared at Li Ang with her beautiful eyes, and said angrily, "What are you doing, bastard? Get up." Li Ang smiled and looked in the direction of Tautu. When Tina jumped up, Tautu realized that something was wrong, and stood up quickly, daring not to continue the lazy bed. "This trick is quite useful," Li Ang said slowly with a smile. The three of Hancock went to wash up quickly, tidied up their clothes, put on formal clothes, and showed their delicate faces and the body of the devil. Three women, as if they only exist in fantasy, are perfect and impeccable. "Husband, am I beautiful?" Hancock smiled sweetly, his beautiful eyes flickered. looking at Li Ang, said. She was wearing a purple cheongsam, which outlined her perfect figure, her delicate and fair face, perfect without any flaws, her tall figure, and those long, straight and slender legs made Li Ang's heart even more beautiful, so beautiful. Li Ang showed the appearance of Brother Pig and said, "Look at how stupid you are." Hancock's pretty face blushed, looking at Li Ang's appearance. She was in a happy mood, but also had an unusual shyness. Tautu and Tina also wore exquisite formal clothes, with a devil's figure, a tall figure, a slender waist, and a delicate face. These three people, going out like this, I am afraid that 300% of the rate of return is definitely not enough. Let's go. Li Ang retracted his gaze, felt the beautiful body of the three girls, and said with a smile. Yeah. Hancock and the other three nodded gently. Under the leadership of Li Ang, he opened the door. As expected. I saw a sweet woman, and I have been waiting for a long time. Lord Li Ang, please. The sweet woman was amazed by the faces of the three Hancocks, and even she was almost moved as a woman. Immediately, she blushed, lowered her head, and dared not speak. Under the leadership of the sweet woman, Li Ang and his party of four approached the dinner party. Princess Wei Wei, please come to the dinner party. Chapter 642 high-level officials have come. And LT, 31 and GT. Princess Wei Wei, please come to the dinner party. A beautiful girl knocked on Princess Wei Wei's door. Crunch. The door opens. Wei Wei was wearing a white dress that seemed to be made of feathers, revealing her fragrant shoulders that were as white as jade. The devil's figure, although still developing, was already very large. A pair of long straight legs, hidden under the skirt, tall, innocent and delicate face, with a bit of blush, beautiful eyes shining bright. Let's go. Wei Wei's pretty face blushed, looking at her dress, which made her even more shy. It's not that she is shy to be seen by others, but that she is shy to be seen by Li Ang. Only in front of Li Ang, she was so shy. Perhaps, it has a great connection with the so-called price in her heart. Of course. It is also possible that in her heart, she had a good impression of Li Ang. But no matter what the reason, anyway, in front of Li Ang, she looked very unnatural and shy. Afterwards, Wei Wei also gradually rushed to the area of the dinner party. At the same time, in the direction of the palace gate, a large group of people have already lined up in a long line, waiting for the guards' review, step by step into the front palace. The people here, everyone, are Alabastas with official rank, or it can be said that they are high-level officials in Alabasta. The banquet held today was really too grand. This group of people lining up was also very surprised. Looking at the high-ranking officials who came continuously from all around, their mood was so surging that they could not speak. Why, there are so many people here. Also, everyone is a high-ranking official. My God, tonight's dinner party is really too lively. Could it be that King Cobra is going to announce something big? I don't know, let's stop guessing. Anyway, we'll know the origin of the matter by then. No, but this is the first time I've ever seen such a spectacular dinner party. Quote. A group of high-ranking officials are talking, looking at the strict guards of the palace in front of them, their hearts are serious. In such an occasion, even they have to be treated with caution. Occasionally accidentally, what if you provoke someone with a higher official position than yourself? In this case, there are definitely many such people. After all, the people invited by King Cobra are naturally very noble people. Everyone must act according to special rules. No one can escape the scrutiny of the guards. Only after passing the review can you enter the palace. So, the queue got longer and longer. 4.8. A steady stream of visitors formed a long queue at the gate of the palace. However, they did not have any impatience, but were very excited. If King Cobra could invite them, he already looked down on them very much. It's understandable to take a picture of the team. A lot of people. Some newcomers to the team, looking at the long dragon in front of them, said in amazement. Everyone's mood also became very excited. There were too many people at this dinner party. Moreover, they are all senior officials. It also allows many people to connect with some people. For most people, it is a good dating platform. And the people who make friends are all high-ranking officials. Maybe, at a certain time, they will need the help of the other party. Here, it can also effectively increase the friendship between the two parties. NLT, 32 and GT. Chapter 643 _ dinner starts, please order. Inside the palace. Each high-ranking official was sent to a special place for the dinner by the staff here. Here, the venue has already been built, and it looks very stylish and luxuriously decorated. At night, the flashing colored lights make the place even more lively and noisy. Lord Jocko, it's you. Oh, it turned out to be Nissen. I thought who it was. Long time no see Tilda. A group of high-ranking officials are talking to each other, smiling. The atmosphere soon became lively and noisy. With the entry of each person, the banquet is about to start. However, if Cobra did not come, the banquet would never be announced. Everyone is waiting for King Cobra. At the dinner party initiated by Cobra, they naturally did not dare to be too arrogant, but instead appeared very restrained. In Alabasta, Cobra is the king above 10,000, and no high-ranking official can shake his position. Therefore, Cobra is also very powerful in the minds of many high-ranking officials. Throughout the venue, in addition to the decorations, there are also long tables covered with a layer of fine fabrics. Above, there are a lot of desserts, fruits, pastries and other foods. There are also many wines to choose from. This kind of dinner is so luxurious. Some people have been officials in Alabasta for more than 10 years. This is the first time I have seen such a large-scale dinner. What exactly is it for? This question shrouded the hearts of everyone present. They couldn't think of the answer for a long time. Why would such a prosperous dinner be held? This question, they are completely confused and completely puzzled. However, they were not in a hurry to get all the answers. Anyway, as long as Cobra came, all the questions would be solved naturally. The whole venue was lively and noisy. Everyone is talking. Outside the palace, there were still a group of people queuing up. But the number of people in line has gradually decreased. Almost the vast majority of people were put into the occasion of the palace dinner. Their scope of action is also limited to this occasion. After all, this is the palace. If they walk around randomly, if they are not sure, they will commit something, which will kill their heads. Therefore, no matter how high the official position is, in this palace, they would not dare to act rashly. The person with the highest status is naturally Cobra. No matter how high their official position is, if Cobra is dissatisfied with them, they can revoke the other party's official position in minutes. Therefore, Cobra is the highest existence that everyone needs to look up to. Not far away, Li Ang, Hancock, Tautu, and Tina, led by the sweet woman, gradually arrived at this dinner party. From afar, seeing such a luxurious dinner, Li Ang felt a little suspicious. It's so pretty. Tina's pink lips parted slightly, and she whispered. I didn't expect it to be so serious. Li Ang said with a smile. This dinner party, he originally thought it was just a meal, but he didn't expect to invite so many people, and it was so lively. Cobra's thoughts made Li Ang very happy. Obviously, Cobra is still very serious about his affairs. For such a person, why is Li Ang upset? Let's go. Li Ang led the three of Hancock into the banquet step by step. Immediately, all eyes were attracted. The delicate faces of Hancock, Tautu, and Tina are so beautiful that everyone here is shocked and unable to speak. Even the wives of some high-ranking officials were stunned. Chapter 643 _ the dinner begins, please order. NLT, 33 and GT. Even the wives of some high-ranking officials were stunned. Such beauty makes these women a little moved. Who are they? A senior official asked with wide eyes and puzzled expression. I don't know, it seems to be very familiar. If Alabasta has appeared in the past, we will definitely not forget it. No, how could such a beautiful person forget? And, have you noticed? The young man beside them, he seems, is their husband. Quote. Everyone started talking. I guessed it. As soon as you three little girls appeared, you compared all the women on the scene. Li Ang waved his hand, looked at Hancock's delicate faces, and smiled. Igia, but the most beautiful. Hancock looked at Li Ang mischievously, blinked and smiled. I see, your ass is itchy. Li Ang said with a smile. Hearing this, Hancock's pretty face showed a little nervousness. Flowers. Seeing Hancock's appearance, Li Ang burst into laughter and laughed. Well, you dare to make fun of me. Hancock ran in the direction of Li Ang with all his teeth and claws. Li Ang put his arms around Hancock's slender waist and felt the delicate touch. The softness of the two balls really made him intoxicated. There are so many people here. Hancock blushed and whispered. What are you afraid of? Let those mortals be envious. Li Ang pecked Hancock's pretty face and smiled. I don't know how many extreme eyes have been attracted, focusing on Li Ang. Feeling so many jealous eyes, this made Li Ang more comfortable. Be jealous. Jealousy is useless anyway. Under the jealous eyes of everyone, Li Ang pecked Hancock, Tautu, and Tina on the faces, which stimulated those present. 0. In this regard, Li Ang expressed deep satisfaction, and with a smile, he looked at the people around the dinner party. You guy. Hancock's pretty face blushed, and he glanced at Li Ang angrily, but he was overjoyed. Tautu and Tina blushed slightly, but did not speak. They followed Li Ang's side. Maimyu looked at Li Ang's back, and felt a warm feeling in her heart. Let's find a place to sit down. Li Ang took Hancock's soft little hand, looked at the three girls, and smiled. Yeah. Hancock, Tautu, and Tina nodded lightly. Under the leadership of Li Ang, the four of them quickly found a table and 4 chairs, just right, no more and no less, and let the 4 sit around the table. With the appearance of Li Ang, I don't know if it was because of the delicate faces of Hancock and others that people didn't care about Li Ang's face. Therefore, his name has not been found. After this little episode, the people who have come are basically complete. The whole banquet was filled with people, and it seemed unusually lively. Although Hancock and others are unusually beautiful, no one has yet dared to strike up a conversation. After all, how many of the people who can appear in the palace are ordinary people? Even so, there are still some stunned young people. This is not. One was wearing white clothes, with a self-confidently handsome smile, pushed his glasses, held a glass of wine in his hand, and walked in the direction of Li Ang step by step. NLT, 34 and GT. Chapter 644-conflict. You three charming little goblins are really causing trouble. Li Ang's eyes narrowed slightly, with a funny smile, a bit of cold light flashed in his eyes, and said. Really, any cat or dog would dare to come here to provoke him. With his domineering look, he already felt that behind him, a young man was walking step by step. Are you going to kill him? Hancock said with a calm face and a faint smile. Murder, for her, is nothing new. If some people don't know how to praise, then kill them. She has never been a soft-hearted person, the only exception is her treatment of Li Ang. She wouldn't be patient at all with other people's words. Tautu and Tina also had a calm expression on their faces, and said, it seems a bit inappropriate to kill someone at this dinner party. However, it's fine to crippling him. As soon as the two opened their mouths to speak, there was an aura that made 783 people chill. In front of Li Ang, the three of them are well-behaved little girls. In front of others, they have always been cold and unsmiling. To know. The three are all powerful and terrifying characters. A Chiwahai, an alternate general, and a Navy colonel. In Alabasta, it can be said that the three of them can walk sideways. Wherever you go, you can push the road horizontally. No one in Alabasta can stop them, that's for sure. Look at what he has to say, use him to pass the time before the dinner officially begins. Li Ang said with a faint smile. At this time, the young man in white was already standing beside Li Ang. With a smile on his face, he seemed very polite and suave, looked at Li Ang beside him, and said, "Brother, my name is Belodo, the only son of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I see your appearance, you are very friendly." "Brother." Li Ang laughed dumbly, glanced at the young man, shook his head and said, "I'll tell you responsibly, I'm not your brother." Huh. Belodo was stunned, unable to speak for a while. He is the only son of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. In Alabasta, the vast majority of people basically do not give him face. However, here, he was slapped in the face. He only felt that his face was hot and red. "I don't know the names of several beautiful ladies. Can you tell me?" Belodo looked at the three of Hancock and asked. However, Hancock, Tautu, and Tina were all chatting on their own, and they didn't even plan to pay any attention to Belodo. "Have you noticed that there is a fly that has been flying around here, so annoying?" "Yes, this fly still thinks that he is very attractive." "No, he doesn't know, flies are flies, and he doesn't understand the situation at all." Quote. The clear voice of the three girls spread out. Li Ang smiled, looked at Belodo beside him, and said lightly, "Did you hear it clearly? If you didn't hear it clearly, I can repeat it for you." Belodo took a deep breath, and then calmed down his heart, looking at Li Ang with a pair of eyes. His expression was not good. He didn't expect that his approach would be completely ignored. At this time, he had to repeat it, looking at Li Ang, and said, "I am the only son of the Minister of Foreign Affairs." "Then what?" Li Ang said with a calm face. You wait, I'll make you look good later." Belodo gritted his teeth and left here full of grief and anger. "Want us to look good? Then you stay and accompany me to relieve the boredom," Li Ang said with an expressionless face. The words just fell. Chapter 644-conflict. NLT, 35 and GT. The words just fell. Belodo was horrified to find that his body could not move. His eyes widened with a look of fear in his eyes. He stared blankly at Li Ang who was smiling beside him, and the fear in his heart was infinitely magnified. What exactly did you do?" Belodo looked at Li Ang and lost his voice. "I didn't do anything, I didn't even touch you. What would I do?" Li Ang waved his hand and smiled lightly. "Then, why can't I move?" Belodo gritted his teeth and continued. "You have to ask yourself. Are you eating the wrong thing, or are you sick? Otherwise, why are you suddenly unable to move when you are fine?" Li Ang continued to smile without diminishing. "You!" Belodo shouted with fury in his eyes. At the same time, not far away, there was a group of middle-aged people, looking in Belodo's direction, frowning, and talking. "Isn't that, Belodo, the only son of Foreign Secretary Thadalu? What's wrong with him? It seems that he wants to chat with those three beautiful women. So, he closed the door. Besides, his expression is very angry now. Should we go to relieve it? It can be regarded as selling a face to the old guy Sade Road. Maybe he will be used in the future. That's a good idea." Quote. The four middle-aged men made up their minds and walked towards Li Ang's position step by step. "Uncle Stander." Belodo's eyes flashed, as if he saw a savior, and hurriedly shouted. Among the four middle-aged people, a man with a beard and stubborn face stood out. He looked at Belodo and said with a faint smile, "Belodo, what trouble have you caused?" I didn't cause trouble. It's all this guy. He didn't know what method he used to hold my body in place, and I couldn't get away," Belodo said anxiously. "Heard." Stander glanced at several middle-aged people around him and nodded secretly. Stan looked at Li Ang and asked, little brother, did you do it? Please let him go, he didn't do it on purpose. If he has done wrong, I will apologize to you on his behalf. Boy, do you hear me? Do you know who is standing in front of you? Stand was full of pride and shouted loudly. Ha ha ha. Li Ang laughed out loud, his face full of interest. Aside. Hancock, Tautu, and Tina watched the development of things interestingly. This is just great. Actually, there are people who are not afraid of death. They took the initiative to hit the 3.2 on Li Ang's muzzle. This is simply self-defeating. What are you laughing at? Stand frowned and asked, who are your elders? Let him come out and I want to talk to him. I think it is necessary for him to discipline your back and your attitude when talking to elders. Elder. Li Ang couldn't contain his smile. Seeing Li Ang's smile, the faces of the standers became more and more ugly. This is simply, don't take their face to heart. You kid, you're done. Belodo thought so in his heart, and when he saw the increasingly angry expressions of Stander and the others, he was overjoyed. How dare this kid be so bold? This time, I finally have to provoke a person who can't be provoked. To know. Uncle Stander, that is the military minister who controls the army in the Kingdom of Alabasta. And LT, 36 and GT. Chapter 645 _ a good show. Elders, I've never heard this word before. What I didn't expect was that you would dare to call me my elders in front of me. This is too high school. Li Ang's face was calm, and he said lightly. You boy. Stand frowned and stared at Li Ang. If the other party gives him a step, then he will naturally not be entangled. After all. This is the banquet in the palace, and even he wouldn't dare to mess around here. However, instead of letting him go down the steps, Li Ang forced him to a dead end. If he doesn't make some moves, I'm afraid that His Majesty will plummet. There are so many colleagues here, and being laughed at by them is really a stain that cannot be erased in a lifetime. The people around also discovered the conflict that broke out here. Everyone's eyes were focused, and their expressions were somewhat interested. There's a good show to watch, Stander, and Belodo, the only son of the foreign secretary. They seem to have a conflict with that mysterious young man. Who is this young man? What kind of identity does he have? Why, there are 3 such beautiful women who are so committed to him. This is simply, too jealous. 23, no, but we just need to watch this good show. No matter what, it doesn't matter to us. But now, this young man is in big trouble. All at once, provoked the foreign secretary, and the military secretary. This is really too bold. Quote. There was a lot of talk, and everyone's demeanor was very excited. They can't wait to see how things will develop. Of course. In the hearts of most people, they believed that the young man had really entered a desperate situation. Although I don't know the identity, it is definitely a very serious thing to provoke 2 ministers in Alabasta. If nothing else, this young man will definitely be punished. After being surrounded by many people, Stander couldn't back down. Once he stepped back, he would be laughed at, saying that he was timid, and even a young man who did not know his identity would not dare to provoke him. Thought here. Stand glared at Li Ang fiercely, and said, Boy, apologize. This matter, let it go. Otherwise, you will suffer. Are you threatening me? Li Ang's eyes narrowed slightly, a cold light flashed, and he smiled. He was watched by Li Ang's eyes. Stand shuddered, as if he was being stared at by a terrifying killer. This made his heart not have much confidence. Only now, riding a tiger is difficult. He had no other way but to continue fighting with Li Ang. Boy, do you know who you are provoking? You will cause trouble for your parents. No, if you are acquainted, you should apologize. This matter has just passed. We don't want to embarrass you either, just apologize. Quote. Several middle-aged people spoke in a low voice. If it can be solved easily, they will be happy to. However, I was afraid that Li Ang in front of him would not agree. As expected. Li Ang smiled and shook his head. You guys, let me apologize. Is this serious? Isn't it a difficult thing to ask you to apologize? It's better to offend us than you, right? You think carefully and don't make mistakes. Stan continued. His face became more and more gloomy. Being surrounded by so many people, he always had to be stronger. Otherwise, how can we stand here in the future? Actually, I really want to ask, what is the reason for the apology? It's impossible to apologize like a person for no reason, right? What do you think? The corners of Li Ang's mouth were slightly raised, and he said slowly. Chapter 645 A good show. And LT, 37 and GT. The corners of Li Ang's mouth were slightly raised, and he said slowly. Well. Stan's face was even more gloomy, and he didn't speak. Boy, apologize if you want to apologize, what nonsense. Bellodo's tone was full of arrogance, and he said bluntly. You want me to apologize? Li Ang stood up, walked to Bellodo's side, and smiled faintly. What do you want to do? With so many people here, do you still want to do something to me? Bellodo was a little flustered and said hastily. Boy, what do you want to do? Stan's face changed slightly, looked at Li Ang, and said in a low voice. Your elder, didn't you bring you here? Let him come out and I'll talk to him. The rest of the middle-aged people also continued to speak. To come here, do you need elders? Li Ang turned his head and looked at several middle-aged people with a calm expression. You didn't come here with your elders. Instead, did you come in on your own initiative? Stander hesitated for a while, said. So what do you think? Li Ang asked back, calmly. At this time, Stander pondered for a moment and said, apologies, that's all. Otherwise, we must take some extreme measures. So, you can decide for yourself whether it's worth it. Everyone is looking at the conflict launched here. None of them went to report the so-called guards. On the contrary, they were happy to see the existence of these conflicts. That young man, I'm afraid it's in big trouble. He has completely provoked Stander. This guy won't let him go easily. However, who asked him to provoke some people he couldn't afford to provoke? All I can say is, he deserves it. Quote. There was a lot of talk, the words wandered around, and then the silence fell again. If you let me apologize, I'm afraid that you are not qualified. Besides, in this world, except for the people I care about, I have never apologized to anyone. Do you think you have this qualification? Li Ang was expressionless, staring at Stan and said lightly. Under his gaze, Steiner's throat was dry, and he felt a little surprised. It's just that he has number 827 way to find the steps to go down. If he doesn't pursue it, the people here will think he is a coward. He must be held accountable. Okay, it seems that you really have to persevere to the end. I admire your courage. Stander laughed angrily and said. I also admire your courage. I hope you can maintain such courage in the next time. Don't be frightened. The corner of Li Ang's mouth raised an arc, and said. You kid, you are dying, and you don't know your situation. Bellodo sneered, glanced at Li Ang from the corner of his eye, and said. He couldn't move, but it didn't affect his arrogance. Whoever dies is imminent. Li Ang said with a meaningful tone. Up to now, he is still stubborn. In my opinion, he is basically hopeless. How did he come in? If it wasn't for the elders, how could he come in here? How did the guards do things? The rest of the middle-aged people opened their mouths and questioned. The atmosphere became depressing. Stan looked at Li Ang with a gloomy expression on his face. And Li Ang, still acting very relaxed, did not bring any tension because of being targeted by so many people. Even if you are attentive, you can find that there is always that smile on Li Ang's face, a confident smile. Chapter 646-Dead. Aside. The pretty faces of Hancock, Tautu, and Tina became more and more intriguing. Looking at the people around them who were watching the battle, they shook their heads secretly. These people still don't know what a terrifying existence they are facing. If they had known, they wouldn't have acted so unhurriedly. What King Cobra? In their eyes, the king of the highest status, however, in front of Liang, at best, he is only a low-ranking person. When these people know this, will they still maintain such an arrogant demeanor? It's so ridiculous. Hancock laughed, his face was calm, and he thought to himself. Seeing so many people targeting Liang, she was not worried. This is Liang. Even if people from the Navy headquarters are surrounded, there is no need to worry about Liang's safety. What's more, in a small place like Alabasta, those who can threaten Liang, at the very least, have to bring in 2 or more teams of the 4 emperors, in order to be able to compete with Liang's terrifying strength. Otherwise, it is basically impossible to shake Liang's terrifying power. If Liang wanted to do it, Alabasta would be destroyed in an instant. At the same time, Belado, who was suppressed by Liang's terrifying aura, still had no fear, looked at Liang, and said arrogantly, "Kid, let me go immediately, and apologize to me. I will just pretend that nothing happened. Otherwise." Liang's face was calm, and he smiled lightly. "Otherwise, you won't be able to get out of this place today." Stan frowned slightly, his face gloomy, and took over the words. "Can't get out of this place. It's so powerful, I was almost frightened. The military is in charge of Shenshin Stand, right? And Belado, the only son of the foreign minister, right?" Liang's eyes flashed brightly, and he said slowly. "How are you doing?" Stand was expressionless, with a bit of coldness, and shouted. He has no room to retreat. In Alabasta, he is also a well-rounded person, and his status is quite high. If he was slapped in the face by a stranger like Liang today, he wouldn't be able to fight back. After that, will he still use it in Alabasta? Of course, it is impossible. He will be ridiculed for the rest of his life, and he doesn't want to experience this kind of thing at all. Therefore, today, he must confront the young man in front of him. This was decided from the very beginning, after he chose to help Belado. Liang in front of him had to compromise with him. If he doesn't compromise, he can only use some extreme means to force the other side to compromise. Everyone looked at Liang's figure. A few middle-aged people around them looked bad, and they stared at Liang without blinking. Belado was still fearless, and said arrogantly, "Boy, do you know what kind of situation you are in? Now hurry up and apologize to me. Otherwise, you will really be finished." "Apologize? I've said it a long time ago. You guys, you don't have the right to make me apologize." Liang's face was calm, he shook his head and laughed. He was still talking about apologizing, which made him very boring. It wouldn't have been such a hassle if you had done it earlier. But do these guys really dare to do it? Why for so long, there is no sign of doing it? Thinking of this, Liang looked at Stand and chuckled. "Are you afraid?" "Scared? Are you kidding?" Stan sneered and said coldly. His eyes flashed a bit of cold light, with a strong murderous intent. Chapter 646-Dead. And LT, 39 and GT. His eyes flashed a bit of cold light, with a strong murderous intent. "Then why don't you do it? You talk so much nonsense to me. If I were you, I would do it. Why haven't you done it? If you want to give me a chance, then you don't have to. If you want to kill me, now I'll give you a chance. Now, do it and kill me. Immediately, did you hear me?" Liang's eyes narrowed slightly, and his voice became louder and louder when he approached Stander. His voice made Stander stunned in an instant. Belado's words stopped abruptly, and a pair of eyes looked at Liang with some horror. What's the situation? Is this kid really not afraid of death? Or, he thinks this is the palace, and no one dares to do anything to him? "You boy!" Gloomy and angry face, Stander shouted, "I remember what happened today. If tomorrow, you can still live to see the sun tomorrow, then, I will immediately kneel down to you and admit my mistake. No need. Tonight, you have to kneel down and apologize to me. Li Ang's face was calm, and he said with a slight disappointment, you still let me down. After all, you don't have the courage to do anything to me at all. You bastard, after living for so many years, all your courage is like feeding a dog. You. Stand was furious and gritted his teeth. But when he thought that this was the palace, he suppressed all his anger. This is the palace, even he has no right to do it. If he does, then he will grab a lot of handles. Then, he was directly stripped of his rights by Cobra. Therefore, he must endure. Diaresis boy, you really annoyed us. I tell you, you are dying. Tomorrow, your body will appear on the street. I want you to deeply understand what kind of person you have provoked today. Quote. Several middle-aged people were also angry and opened their mouths one after another. Yes, and you guys, you have to kneel down with me too. Li Ang glanced at the middle-aged people and said lightly. Are you dreaming? Let's kneel. Several middle-aged people laughed and shouted. It was as if they had heard the funniest thing, and the laughter echoed around. At this time, Li Ang was expressionless, walked to Barodo's side, smiled lightly, and said, the cause of everything is because of you. If you weren't so impulsive, these things wouldn't have happened. Jiao Nuo Jiao, you, what do you want to do? Barodo looked at Li Ang with a bit of fear in his eyes, and lost his voice. Do you know who you are talking to? I know. Li Ang nodded. I've been talking to a dead person all the time. Finished talking. Under Barodo's terrified gaze, Li Ang raised his hand slightly, and the first-generation ghost came out of its sheath, and the light of the sword flickered, which was extremely dazzling. Everyone was stabbed in the eyes by this flickering light and could not open them. For a moment, Li Ang once again took the first-generation goosh back into the scabbard, with a blank face, and sat down on the chair again. Plop, sound. Silence. Everyone came back to their senses and stared blankly at the headless corpse on the ground. Beside the corpse, Barodo's head, those fearful eyes, make everyone unforgettable. Dead, dead. A young man's throat was dry, he rolled, and trembled. Chapter 647 Princess Wei Wei is here. The whole place was silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the headless corpse, motionless. Silence. Everyone's expressions gradually changed from shock to fear. My God, this guy Barodo was actually killed. Where's the foreign secretary? My God, his only son died in the palace. I think he's going mad. Who is this person who dares to kill Barodo in public? His trouble is coming. Quote. A group of people talked with fear on their faces, looking at Li Ang sitting calmly in the chair. His spine was wet with cold sweat. If you beat someone, are you still so calm? What's up with this guy? You. Stan's lips trembled, looking at Li Ang with fear, and then looking at the headless corpse on the ground. The whole person was not very good, and the scalp was numb. If the object of Li Ang's actions was him just now, can he survive? The answer, of course, is impossible. That light was too fast. He must not be able to react, and he will be instantly killed. Just like Barodo, the head was separated and could not die any longer. You actually dare to kill people in the palace. You bastard, there is no royal law. That's right, guard, come guard. Someone killed someone here, so why don't you care? This guy, I suspect, he is plotting evil and wants 060 to kill King Cobra. Guard, hurry up and catch him. Quote. Several middle-aged people were also afraid for a while, and the expressions of fear could not be concealed. However, Li Ang was still sitting quietly in the chair, expressionless, even with a smile. Didn't you say you don't kill people? Tina's pink lips parted slightly, and she said involuntarily. No way, they are too annoying. I wanted to pass the time, but I didn't expect so many people to pay attention. It's too noisy, I need to make them quiet. Liang waved his hand and said helplessly. Kill it and kill it, this kind of person is worthless. With a smile on his face and a delicate face, Hancock didn't feel the slightest panic because of the dead. Just dead. Doesn't it happen often? On the sea, the collision between pirates and pirates, the collision between pirates and the navy, these battles will kill people. So, for their 3 daughters. Dead people are just commonplace. However, Liang's knife really surprised them. Too fast. Before they could react, they saw Liang put the knife in the scabbard and the head fell to the ground. That kind of speed, so that they cannot feel any traces. If the enemy is Liang, I am afraid that even they will have a nightmare that spreads in their hearts. But fortunately, Liang, but his husband. Hey, can you all be quiet? Liang glanced at some of the chattering crowd beside him, and said lightly. Under his words. Everyone was quiet, not daring to say a word, and their eyes were full of horror. After the dead, these people's fear of Liang spontaneously arises. In particular, he actually dared to kill people in the palace. How dare they provoke such people? No wonder, this guy Belado really doesn't have eyes. How dare you even provoke such a person? Chapter 647 _ Wei Wei is here. How dare you even provoke such a person? A time. Even Stander has deep regrets in his heart, and he knew that he should not be involved in this dispute. Now, it is even more difficult for him to escape. What do you want to do? Stan looked at Liang and trembled. He was really afraid that Liang would suddenly hit him and let others fall to the ground. He doesn't want to die like this. Take care of the corpse, don't put it here to be an eyesore. This dinner can't be spoiled by a corpse. Did you hear what I said? Liang looked at Stan and said lightly. Damn. Stander gritted his teeth, but he didn't dare not do things according to Liang's words. He immediately said to the people around him, hand on and deal with the corpses here. But CDFF, several middle-aged people hesitated, not wanting to do as Liang said. You guys, do you want to die? Liang glanced at a few middle-aged people and said lightly. In the words, a chilling air emerged spontaneously. Although the expression does not contain any murderous intent, this sentence has an unquestionable momentum. Let's go. Several middle-aged people felt frightened and their bodies trembled. Under the leadership of Stander, Belado's body was quickly cleaned up. Not even a trace of blood was left. However, it is absolutely impossible for everyone in the audience to forget the scene just now. The picture of Belado being cut off in an instant could not be erased in their hearts for a long time. While a group of people are talking, they can't help but look in Liang's direction and whisper. He seems to have nothing to fear, is he really not afraid of retribution by the foreign secretary? I don't know, but his strength is really strong. I didn't even see the knife just now, Belado is already dead. His strength is definitely not as simple as we imagined. But, Alabasta, when did such a number one person come? Quote. A group of people whispered, not daring to speak too loudly, for fear of being discovered by Liang. In their hearts, Liang was already hooked on the murderer. A few middle-aged men, including Stander, who had finished disposing of the corpse, stood not far away, their eyes fixed on Liang, and they were talking to each other. What to do? A middle-aged man took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and said unwillingly. This time, I really want to lose face and throw it at the door of my house. Not only did they not restrain the other party, on the contrary, they were ordered by the other party to dispose of the corpse. How could they endure such an insult? Wait, as soon as His Excellency King Cobra arrives, he will die. Stan's voice was low, his throat rolled, with a bit of hoarseness, said. Being called by Liang to deal with the corpse, it was the first time that he was so big, and this was the first time he was called by someone like this. At this time. Not far away. An innocent and lively little angel wearing a white skirt, with a sweet smile and a delicate blushing, gradually entered the night banquet under the leadership of several young girls. She, of course, is Princess Wei Wei. Princess Vivi is here. A group of people looked at Wei Wei's lovely and charming appearance with amazement. It was like the angel God bestowed on them in Alabasta. So beautiful. Spotless, the kind of beauty that does not eat human fireworks, pure and flawless. Everyone dared not look at Wei Wei. The other party was like an angel, and they were just ordinary people in the mortal world. The gap was too far. NLT, 42 and GT. Chapter 648 Take them to me. Everyone, good evening. Looking at the many officials, Wei Wei greeted with a pure and flawless smile. Princess Vivi, good evening. A group of people opened their mouths one after another, excitedly saying Tilda. As the angel of Alabasta, Vivi's place is self-evident. At this time, everyone looked at Li Ang's direction unconsciously, and then looked at the group of people in stander, with a strange expression on their expressions. How will things develop? Now, Princess Wei Wei has appeared. The identity of that mysterious man should also be revealed, right? As expected. Stander and a few middle-aged men were dispatched, and they quickly walked in front of Wei Wei, knelt down on one knee, and bowed their heads in grief and pain. Come on. Everyone watched this dramatic scene and thought to themselves. Such a picture, they have long expected. After all. Here, dead people. People who died in the palace naturally have to be grounded. At this time. Stand cried, full of grievances and said, Princess Wei Wei, you must decide for your subordinates. Uncle Stand, you guys, what's the matter? Wei Wei was a little surprised. Her pretty face showed a bit of puzzlement and asked. This is a long story. Stander gritted his teeth and scurried, saying what happened just now. The most important thing is that he has been emphasizing how serious the sin of killing in the palace is. A long time. Wei Wei finally understood the origin of the matter. She opened her mouth and said softly, Barodo, is he dead? Yes, in the palace, just now, as everyone saw. He died here. His head was chopped off. The death is very miserable. Stand nodded quickly and said. The rest of the middle-aged people also spoke. Princess Wei Wei, if you don't believe it, you can ask the people around you. They all witnessed it with their own eyes. This damn beast is arrogant, and he doesn't take us seriously at all. It is an unforgivable crime to kill people in the palace openly. Yes, Princess Wei Wei. You must deal with it fairly. Quote. The words of a group of people made the atmosphere of the scene even more strange. Everyone looked at Wei Wei's figure, and the cry of Stand and the others, and they were looking forward to it. How will things find out? This made each of them express deep curiosity. Princess Vivi appeared. It's basically impossible for things to settle down. Then, that kid will suffer. Murder in the palace is a heinous crime. Anyone must be punished. Unless he still wants to resist. That means he wants to fight the whole of Alabasta by himself. This is the real big trouble. Countless people thought so in their hearts, their eyes flickered with brilliance. They seemed to have anticipated the outcome of things. This young murderer will finally be brought to justice. Killing people in the palace is simply defiance of the king's law. This kind of person must be severely punished in order to stop the next person who has such thoughts. Princess Wei Wei, please do justice. Stand lowered his head, gritted his teeth, and said. Where is he? Wei Wei's pretty face was calm, her big eyes didn't waver, she said. He's over there. Stand was excited, stood up quickly, pointed in the direction of Li Ang not far away, and said. Chapter 648 Take them to me. And GT, page 1/2. Please click the next page to continue reading. NLT, 43 and GT. Stand was excited, stood up quickly, pointed in the direction of Li Ang not far away, and said. Take me there. Wei Wei continued to speak with no expression on her face. Good. Stander looked at each other with several middle-aged people, feeling very excited and excited. Finally, Princess Wei Wei was dispatched. Now, that damn guy isn't dead yet. Unless he really dares to resist Wang Fa, but in this case, then he really has to go to war with the kingdom. This man is sure to die. Thinking so in their hearts, their mood became more and more excited and excited. From their point of view, Li Ang is already a certain death. Under their leadership, Wei Wei walked to the position behind Li Ang step by step, and was constantly approaching. Finally, Wei Wei stood beside Li Ang and followed Stand and others. Throughout the banquet, everyone watched the next picture carefully, with unblinking eyes, full of energy and focus. What will happen next? Princess Wei Wei will order on the spot to kill this person. This is contempt for the king's law. Killing people in the palace is the greatest sin. No, but this person's strength is too strong. Will he resist? If he hurts Princess Wei Wei, it will not be worth the loss. Katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. No, forgive him and don't dare to resist. Unless he does a good job, one person wants to contend against a kingdom and against our Alabasta's ideas. Otherwise, he will have to be captured. Quote. A group of onlookers started talking in a low voice. At the same time, Stand pointed at Li Ang and shouted, "You damned beast, Belodo is just rude. You are going to kill him. Besides, you killed him in the palace. What should you do?" That's right, Belodo died so wrongly. He never imagined that someone would dare to do something in the palace. Also, he had no intention of attacking this person in the whole process. However, this damn guy, he actually killed Belodo directly. It's too hateful. 0. Princess Wei Wei, please give your order, we must go through fire and water to take him down. Several middle-aged people looked excited and continued. Good. Wei Wei's beautiful eyes did not show any waves. She looked at Li Ang who was still calm, waved her hand, and shouted, "Guard." Under her orders, a group of guards came quickly. "Your Highness the Princess." The guard knelt down on one knee, well equipped, and said respectfully, "This kid, it's finally over." Stander thought so in his heart, and showed a smile. He really wanted to see what kind of expression this damn boy would have in front of him next. If you dare to kill people in the palace, you must think of such consequences. Moreover, this kid is still yelling at himself. Does he think he is a soft persimmon? Simply, so ridiculous. Take them to me. Wei Wei's delicate face was cold, and she shouted, "Yes, take them down." Stan said with a face full of approval. However, to his astonishment, the people that Princess Wei Wei pointed at were indeed them. Instead, the group of young people on the opposite side. How could this be? Why is this happening? He was filled with doubts, deep doubts, and no explanation. A group of guards moved quickly, directly subduing Stand and others, making them unable to move, lying on the ground, their eyes widened, still unable to recover. NLT, 44 and GT. Chapter 649_U, almost destroyed Alabasta. In the blink of an eye. The situation changed suddenly, beyond everyone's expectations. Under Wei Wei's order, a group of guards violently subdued Stand and the others, and lay on the ground unable to move. There is still deep puzzlement and shock on their faces. Silence. Everyone in the audience fell silent, staring blankly at this dramatic picture. What exactly is going on? Why? Why is it not the group of young people who were arrested, but the people like Stander? What is happening? Everyone's heart is surrounded by a huge puzzle that cannot be explained. His face is dull, and he stares blankly at what is going on ahead. Why? What the hell is going on here? Did Princess Wei Wei know that the wrong person was referring to the wrong person? Why is it Lord Stander and the others, not the group of young people on the opposite side? Obviously, the murderer is this young man. I must have mistaken. 943 inches, I must have read it wrong. Quote. Not to mention the crowd around. Even Stander himself was stunned, his whole body stiff. He felt the immobility suppressed by the guards, and the cold weapon locked on his body, making him in a trance for a while. When did you do something wrong? But the murderer is right in front of you. Princess Wei Wei, did you make a mistake? Stand raised his head, spoke with difficulty, and said hoarsely. That's right. Wei Wei's face was expressionless, and her delicate face showed a bit of anger. She said. Why not them? Stand looked at Liang and the others with difficulty and roared. He is not reconciled, it is obviously not his own fault. Why were they caught, not the group of people on the other side? Why is this? His heart was about to explode, and he couldn't think of an answer at all. Princess Wei Wei, you must be mistaken. They were the ones who killed, not us. Yes, Princess Wei Wei, you have arrested the wrong person. We are not the murderers, they are the murderers on the opposite side. So, you should let us go. Princess Wei Wei, you can't do this. We didn't make any mistakes at all. Why did you arrest us? Quote. A group of middle-aged people showed expressions of astonishment and quickly explained. They still believe that Princess Vivi must have made a mistake. Otherwise, why were they caught? But, is there such a thing as wrong? How can such a big person still make these things wrong? This is basically impossible, so their mood has also fallen to the bottom. What went wrong? Where are they doing wrong? The guards don't have any emotions, they just need to follow Princess Wei Wei's orders. Even if this person is a military minister, they cannot stop their actions. They are, the King's Guard. Can have the supreme right to arrest any high-level personnel in Alabasta. Therefore, Stand was caught by them and did not dare to resist in the slightest. They were still looking at Wei Wei with hope, begging for an explanation from the other side. It is a mistake to pray to hear from the other side. Are you confused? Did I catch the wrong one? Did I get the wrong object? Wei Wei's pink lips were slightly parted, her voice was crisp and contained a rage that could not be concealed. Stand and others nodded quickly, their throats were dry and they looked very embarrassed. I can tell you clearly that I have not made a mistake. From the beginning to the end, I have not made a mistake about who I want to arrest. You are the people I want to arrest. Wei Wei's face was calm and she continued. Whoa. Chapter 649_U, Almost Destroyed Alabasta. And GT, page 1/2. Please click the next page to continue reading. And LT, 45 and GT. Whoa. There was an uproar in the audience, and everyone looked at Wei Wei's figure. This thing is getting weirder. Princess Wei Wei, you didn't catch the wrong person. So, what is the reason that Princess Wei Wei is the one who arrests Stander, not the murderer? It's too weird. The murderer was still sitting in a chair and drinking a little wine leisurely, while Stand and the others had been directly pressed to the ground, especially embarrassed. It's getting messy, who can tell me why? I just want to know, why? A group of people were shocked, their lips trembled, and they muttered to themselves. They want answers, they want to know the truth. For what? The people that Princess Wei Wei arrests are Stander and others, not the group of murderers. There are so many puzzles, no one can think of the most real answer. Princess Vivi, I'm fighting for Alabasta. I just want to know an answer, why? Stander gritted his teeth, looked at Wei Wei, and asked. You want to know why? I can tell you right now. Wei Wei's face was calm, and in front of everyone's eyes, she pointed at Li Ang beside her and said, "This gentleman, he cured my father's condition directly. He gave my father a second life. You say, is this credit enough?" Everyone's throat was dry and their eyes widened. Cobra's serious illness is hardly a little-known thing. If you catch anyone on the street, you can know that Cobra's condition is quite serious. But I didn't expect that this young man actually cured Lord Cobra. This is really incredible. King Cobra, healed. Stan's eyes widened, his lips trembling, and he said, "That's right." Wei Wei nodded and said, "On the first day this gentleman came, it took only 1 day to heal the father. And today's dinner is for this gentleman. You said, this is the reason enough." As soon as the words came out, the audience was even more shocked. Such a grand dinner was actually held for this young man. My God, what the hell did I hear? This dinner, so prosperous and luxurious, was actually held for this young man. No wonder, he has always been fearless, with King Cobra standing behind him. Some people came to a realization. But it's still hard to hide the shock in their hearts. They all looked at Li Ang, who was not far away, and felt fortunate in their hearts. "Fortunately, I didn't take the initiative to provoke the other party just now, otherwise, I don't know how to die. Could it be that because of this, he can kill people in the palace?" Still unwilling, Stander looked at Wei Wei and said, "With so many people, he didn't believe that Wei Wei would use power for personal gain. Therefore, he is considered to be willing to give up killing people in the palace's defiance of the king's law. Even those with royal bloodline had to suffer severe punishment. No one is exempt from this. Of course. In many cases, most people 4.7 will deliberately avoid this topic. However, the current Stander is already a dead pig who is not afraid of boiling water, so he will go all out, so he opened his mouth and questioned Wei Wei. Everyone quieted down and looked at Stand with horror on their faces. This guy is a complete take on his life. So, how will Princess Wei Wei answer? There are so many people here, and the blatant use of power for personal gain will arouse dissatisfaction among many people. Perhaps as expected, Wei Wei's expression remained unchanged. She sighed, and seeing the unwilling eyes of Stander, she said slowly, "Uncle Stander, I don't really want to say it. However, since you have already asked here, then, I have to let you know one thing. I am saving you, almost destroying Alabasta. Alabasta has been passed down for many years, however, because of your actions just now, it was almost destroyed, do you understand?" Chapter 650 He is Li Ang. Everyone looked at Wei Wei with puzzled faces, their eyes widened. These words, wandering around, everyone is sluggish. What is the situation? How is it so good? Even the destruction of Alabasta is involved. Why do you say that? Princess Wei Wei's words made all their members look at Li Ang attentively. Is it possible that this young man has something extraordinary? I don't believe it. Stand gritted his teeth and said with difficulty, "Uncle Stander, I'm helping you. Otherwise, you just now are dead. This guy Belado is dead when he's dead. If you die, I'll be very troubled." Wei Wei's delicate face flashed a bit of sadness. She shook her head and said, "Help me, Princess Wei Wei, are you helping me too? How much I have contributed and how much credit I have made for Alabasta. And today, I was threatened by an outsider. I still can't resist. Just because he was the one who saved King Cobra. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. For the sake of such a kingdom, I once threw 23 heads and shed my blood. How much I love this kingdom. It's a pity that I didn't expect it to end up in such a situation." Stan still laughed miserably, his voice loud and a little hoarse. "Uncle Stander." Wei Wei's pretty face moved, her beautiful eyes were filled with regret, and she sighed inwardly. Her order was not only because Li Ang saved his father. The main reason is because of the identity of the other party. This identity is not something that Alabasta can provoke. Even if she was a princess, she didn't dare to show any disrespect in front of Liang. How could these people not understand her difficulties? It is also unfortunate that he chose to provoke such a monster. This is to set up a terrifying and powerful enemy for Alabasta. This is not an ordinary enemy, but a terrifying existence that even Crocidar, who can rule Alabasta, fears it. Princess Wei Wei, if you want to deal with us, please do it. We have no complaints. I admit that this gentleman may have contributed a lot. However, this is not the reason why he killed at will. What's more, this is the palace. Could it be that those who have merit can be unscrupulous? Quote. Several middle-aged people were full of unwillingness and kept talking. They are not willing to be punished like this, and at this point, they can only risk it. If they could, they would never provoke Liang. But now things go against their wishes, the provocation has already been provoked, and they have no way out. Only by starting from Princess Wei Wei, plus so many officials around, can I pray for a fair and just treatment. At the very least, because the other party saved King Cobra, with this great credit, he could kill without any charges. If this is the case, then the entire kingdom, what other laws are there to speak of? Of course. In the face of this higher status person, they can only pray for fair treatment. However, if the person facing them is humble, then they will naturally not be reasonable. The crowd also started talking. Everyone looked at Liang and Princess Wei Wei, as well as Stander and the others who were subdued on the floor by the guards, staring at each other, unable to speak. What will be the result? They don't know it either. But what Stander said did make them feel a little dissatisfied and bitter in their hearts. Although the identity gap is huge, everyone is eager to be treated equally. Chapter 650 He is Liang. And GT, page 1/2. Please click the next page to continue reading. And LT, 47 and GT. Although the identity gap is huge, everyone is eager to be treated equally. Therefore, Stander's words directly hit their hearts. If you are kind to King Cobra, you can act recklessly. Then, what other laws are there in Alabasta? However, the people among them did not think that if there were people with low status, when they reasoned with them, would they still maintain such an equal attitude? Naturally, this is basically impossible. Only in the face of people of higher status, they long to be treated as equals. But in the face of a group of people with very low status, they will not speak with reason. This is human nature. Princess Vivi, do you want to protect this person who saved King Cobra's life? In that case, what will we do with the law in the future? Be quiet, in the whole of Alabasta, isn't the word of King Cobra the best? Quote. A group of people whispered and said with a sigh on their faces. These subtle conversations were passed into Wei Wei's ears, making her pretty face show a bit of coldness, her pretty brows were slightly wrinkled, and her expression was not good. This is to shake the hearts of all high-level officials in Alabasta. However, she doesn't care, because the main factor that causes her to favor Liang is not saving Cobra, but because of Liang's identity. In the face of absolute power, still long for fairness. It's just a joke. Not to mention the people like Stander, even if the entire Alabasta unites and wants to speak fairly with Liang, it is not qualified. Princess Wei Wei, what will you do? Stan's eyes twinkled and his heart was heavy, thinking so. He moved everyone in the audience. Then, if Princess Wei Wei wants to deal with him, she has to weigh so many people on the scene. Once he was dealt with, it would chill the hearts of all the officials present. Therefore, his remarks, in his opinion, have brought Wei Wei to a dead end. There are only two options. 1. Regardless of the mood of him and everyone present, forcibly protect the young man. Such consequences will make everyone present feel chills. The entire Alabasta is also about to face a huge crisis. The people inside were panicked, the military was disillusioned, and Alabasta soon ushered in disintegration. 2. Dealing with the murderer is the only way to deal with it fairly for everyone present. This 183 lies with Princess Wei Wei. How will the other party decide? This point, Stander was very curious, and his mood eased a little bit of heaviness. The other middle-aged people who were subdued also looked at Wei Wei with difficulty, waiting for the other party's words. The final result depends on Princess Wei Wei's words. Everyone was silent, their eyes focused on Princess Wei Wei. At this time, Wei Wei glanced at Li Yang, who was beside her, and saw that the other party was still smiling, sitting calmly on the chair, holding a glass of red wine in her hand, looking very comfortable. Looking at it this way, the other party is obviously not worried about what happened on the scene. However, when she thought of the identity of the other party, Wei Wei was relieved. In this world, there is nothing that can move the other party, he is too strong. Uncle Stander, you are really wrong. Besides, it is very wrong. In this world, fairness is rare. I want fairness too. But if it comes at the cost of the destruction of Alabasta, I have to deal with it another way. Wei Wei said slowly, with no expression on her face, actually, it's already a lot of luck that you have survived until now. Why did Belado die? That's because he provokes someone he can't afford. Why do I say Alabasta will be destroyed? Because, this man, the man who saved my father, he is Li Yang. Chapter 651 _ The audience shakes. Finished talking. Wei Wei's pink lips were slightly closed, and she looked at everyone present with her big eyes, her delicate face, with deep weakness and a bit of regret. These people don't know the pressure in her heart. Actually, still trying to seek fair treatment here. If it can be fair, she wants to be fair too. But in front of Li Yang, talk about fairness. Isn't this a very funny thing? Like, does it make sense to reason in front of crocodile? In this world, the strong prey on the weak, and only the strong can dominate everything. And Li Yang stood at the top of the world, let alone her, even the entire kingdom of Alabasta, plus the alliance of several surrounding kingdoms, would not be able to shake Li Yang's existence. Li Yang's existence is unique and makes everyone in the world fear. Silence. 030. Everyone stared blankly at Li Yang sitting in the chair. From the beginning, they felt that the face of each other was a little familiar. As expected. After hearing what Wei Wei said, they finally understood. Why does it feel familiar? That's because they have seen the face of this man in the newspaper. How is this possible? A young official's lips trembled and his eyes widened in panic. Everyone else was shocked. They stared blankly at Li Yang's back, their fear could not be concealed. Li Yang, he is really Li Yang. A middle-aged man took out the newspaper, looked at a figure above, and then looked at Li Yang in front. The two overlapped, exactly the same, and there was no difference at all. My God, he turned out to be Li Yang. Why did Li Yang come to Alabasta? Isn't he in Maravendo? What the hell is going on here? Fortunately, I didn't provoke him, so I said, his face is very familiar. However, I never thought of this. Now I look at it, and I find that it turns out that he is Li Yang. I finally understand what Princess Wei Wei said. ... Countless people started discussions and said in amazement. They finally understood the difficulties of Princess Wei Wei. And, what is Princess Wei Wei doing? This moment. The answer is revealed. Because that person is Li Yang. He is a terrifying figure that cannot be provoked in the whole of Alabasta. Not only saving King Cobra, this is just a trivial matter. If compared with the identity of the other party, saving the king is simply not on the table. The opponent's support has never been King Cobra. Instead, the identity of the other party has already been able to stand at the top of Alabasta, overlooking everyone in Alabasta, and make everyone submit to his feet. We were all wrong, horribly wrong. This young man's support has never been King Cobra. Even, to say something ugly, King Cobra is nothing in front of him. So, Princess Wei Wei, this is the only way to deal with it. It's not unfair, but it's not fair. Who dares to act rashly in front of Li Yang? Quote. A group of people started a discussion. They looked at Li Ang's back with shock on their faces, unable to recover for a long time. It was so shocking. The appearance of Li Ang detonated the atmosphere of the audience. Everyone was shocked. Chapter 651 _ The audience shakes. NLT, 49 and GT. Everyone was shocked. This is even more shocking than the recovery of King Cobra. Princess Wei Wei said that Stander's actions will destroy Alabasta. I completely understand this sentence. If Princess Wei Wei didn't appear in time, and Stand and the others continued to entangle with Li Ang, what would be the consequences? Can one make up for the death of just one Belodo? This is Li Ang. Quote. The whole dinner party became extremely noisy. However, in view of Li Ang not far away, they did not dare to speak too loudly, for fear of disturbing each other. Mr. Li Ang, I'm late. I'm deeply sorry for what happened just now. I'm sorry, I didn't know anyone would dare to act so boldly. Wei Wei bowed to Li Ang and said softly. She was wearing a white dress, like a beautiful angel, so pure and flawless that she couldn't have any disgusting feelings in her life. On the ground, Stander, who was subdued by the guards, widened his eyes and his lips trembled. At the same time, several middle-aged people around also felt an uncontrollable sense of fear that enveloped their bodies. They are wrong. Terribly wrong. In the first place, they shouldn't mess with this young man. The opponent's reliance has never been King Cobra, and the opponent himself is an invisible deterrent. If they had known, they would never have been so bold. They agree with Princess Wei Wei's words. If it weren't for the appearance of Princess Wei Wei, they would already be a corpse. They have been alive to this day, it is already very lucky. And Belodo, that guy's death, was just a matter of course. This is the change brought about by strength. In the face of absolute strength, everyone has to be frightened, and there is no confidence and pride in the past. Just like Stander, he originally thought that no matter how bad it was, he could leave unharmed. But now he found out that he was wrong again. Whether I can leave is not to see Princess Wei Wei. Instead, look at this young man sitting in a chair. This young man is the key to their survival. If the other party lets them die, they will never live tomorrow, nor will they see the sun of tomorrow. Will Alabasta stand up for them? This is of course impossible. Who is Li Ang? That is a terrifying existence that can compete with the world government and the Navy headquarters. Little Alabasta, dare to meet such an enemy head-on. This is of course impossible. There are thousands of people in Alabasta, and it is impossible for them to offend Li Ang rashly. 4.4 Offend Li Ang, go to heaven and earth, and no one will be able to save them. At this moment, their faces were ashen, their gray faces lowered their heads, looking at the slightly water-stained ground, their moods were full of bitterness. When they thought that they had threatened Li Ang before, they shuddered. In front of Li Ang, they dared to speak wildly, and their courage even admired them. However, the next cost, they dare not imagine. How will Li Ang punish them? They looked hopeless, shook their heads and sighed. Feelings, in the end, I found out that the person I provoked turned out to be such a terrible person. He is Li Ang. Stan's lips trembled, and he whispered to himself. He sighed inexplicably, his face was ashen, and he could no longer utter any words to pray for fairness. This is just a joke. Chapter 652 _ Kneel down and apologize. What kind of monster have we provoked? He's Li Ang. From the beginning, I thought he looked familiar. I couldn't think of him as a monster like Li Ang. That's it, it's over. No one can save us. He is Li Ang, and no one dares to save us. King Cobra can't do anything, unless the other party doesn't want to kill us. Otherwise, we will surely die. Quote. Several middle-aged people gritted their teeth and thought so in their hearts. All the hopes in their hearts were dashed. Not much hope. No one can save them, they can only pray that Li Ang will let them go. At present, the only way for them to survive is to pray that Liang would not kill them. Other than that, there is no other way. Suppressed by several guards, they gave up the resistance in their hearts, and were paralyzed on the ground, with no trace of arrogance on their faces. In front of Liang, what qualifications did they have to remain proud? Their so-called pride is just a piece of white paper, torn apart and vulnerable to a single blow. The dinner party has completely ushered in a change. The originally noisy and lively scene turned into silence. Basically, everyone's eyes were fixed on Stander and the others in front, and a few pity and sighs flashed in their eyes. It's just weird that they provoke people they can't afford to offend. In Alabasta, except for King Cobra, they can cover the sky with one hand. However, except for Alabasta, they can only be regarded as ordinary people in the entire sea. Out of Alabasta, they are nothing. We, too, saw it wrong, but fortunately, I didn't provoke that monster. No wonder, he is Liang to have such a beautiful woman. It is normal to have such a beautiful woman to follow. If I were a woman, I would also be attracted to Liang. He is too good. Liang is basically the perfect kind. He can be regarded as the Prince Charming of most women in this sea area. Quote. A group of people started talking. Even some married couples raised a few eyebrows at Liang, showing a strong interest. Liang is really good. Even those middle-aged beautiful women couldn't help but be moved. They have experience and are not interested in those ordinary handsome guys. However, Liang is a different person. Almost every place has irresistible temptations. He is Liang. A middle-aged beautiful woman's red lips were slightly parted, and her big eyes were full of interest. If you can spend a night with Liang, it seems to be something to be proud of. Not far away, Liang sat in the chair, but did not notice that those middle-aged and beautiful women who were hungry like wolves had some thoughts about him. Even if he knew, maybe he wouldn't think so. In his eyes, all he sees are Hancock, Tautu, Tina and other supreme beauties, and women with a little bit of beauty can no longer penetrate his eyes. Maybe it's because he was surrounded by beautiful women, which caused his eyes to skyrocket. Beside, Wei Wei bit her pink lips lightly, her beautiful eyes looking at the ashes of Stander and the others on the ground. In the end, she still couldn't bear to see these people die like this. Stander and others, indeed, have contributed a lot to Alabasta. This is certain. For those who have done good to Alabasta, Wei Wei doesn't want the other party to die like this. It's still such a meaningless way to die. I didn't die in battle, but because I provoke someone I can't afford, it's pointless to be killed. Thinking of this, Wei Wei looked at Liang beside her, summoned up her courage, and said softly, "Mr. Liang, could you please let them go? They just did it unintentionally." Princess Vivi. Stan and the others raised their heads and looked at Wei Wei with hope, and their eyes were a little misty. At this time, Princess Wei Wei chose to save them. At the beginning, they actually thought that Princess Wei Wei was trying to use power for personal gain. A deep sense of guilt swirled spontaneously. Everything is their fault. They don't know the truth of the matter, they just make things up. Chapter 642-kneel down and apologize. They don't know the truth of the matter, they just make things up. However, in the end, Princess Wei Wei was still speaking good words for them. Where can I find such a princess? Let them go. Liang's face was calm, and he glanced at Stan and the others without any expression. Under his gaze, the whole body of Stander and the others were agitated, with a look of panic, which could not be concealed on their faces, trembling. Mr. Liang, we were wrong, we shouldn't provoke you. We deserve to die for our sins, but Mr. Liang, I beg you to spare our lives. We will never dare again, please, please spare us. We made mistakes first, and punishment is inevitable, but please let Mr. Liang let us go and let us save our lives. Apart from that, we have nothing else to say about other punishments. Stan gritted his teeth and said with difficulty. Really, any punishment? Liang narrowed his eyes slightly, and said with a faint smile. That's right. Stan nodded solemnly. In order to survive, he would endure any punishment. He doesn't resent other people, but blames him for being too impulsive to provoke such a terrifying monster. Being able to survive is already a blessing in misfortune, what else can he pray for? Uncle Stander. Wei Wei's delicate face was worried and did not speak. It was handed over to Liang for the final disposal. She had no way to make Liang forgive Stander completely. She could only see what the final result would be. How about you? Liang looked at the other middle-aged people and asked. We, too. Several middle-aged people looked at each other, gritted their teeth, and said. Well, let them go. Liang looked at the guard again and whispered. The guard quickly let go and stood aside. Don't disobey Liang's orders. Even though they were the king's escort, they didn't dare to make trouble in the face of a terrifying monster like Liang. 743 They are also human, and since they are human, they naturally have their own emotions. After hearing Liang's identity, they were also directly shocked. Mr. Liang. Wei Wei's pink lips parted slightly, looking at Liang's figure standing up from the chair with a bit of worry, and trembled. Aside. Hancock, Tautu, and Tina's expressions remained unchanged, and their delicate faces were calm. How Liang handled it was within their reason. At this time, after being released by the guards, Stan and the others also stood up from the ground, stained with a layer of stains on their bodies, looking particularly embarrassed, and they could not see the demeanor of the kingdom minister at all. They looked at Liang in fear and did not dare to say a word. Just now, you asked me to kneel down and apologize, didn't you? Liang narrowed his eyes slightly and said lightly. Don't dare. Stan's lips trembled, and his whole body was terrified. Then, I will return the request you made to me. I think it is reasonable and not too much. What do you think? Liang's mouth moved slightly and continued. Not too much, not too much. Stander took a deep breath and said quickly. Finished talking. A few of them looked at each other with a very downhearted expression, gritted their teeth, and resisted the throbbing in their hearts. In the eyes of all. Plop, sound. Stander and several middle-aged people knelt down directly in front of Liang, his face flushed, and he said with difficulty, Lord Liang, we were wrong. Please, your forgiveness. Chapter 653_Belated Cobra. Silence. All the officials in the audience stared blankly at Stander's actions, and watched several kingdoms raise their hands and feet, all kneeling with powerful officials. They still can't believe that these people have such a day. However, in the face of Liang, it was understandable that they knelt down and apologized. In Alabasta, they are the top big shot. But if compared to the whole sea, they are incomparably small characters. And Liang, that is a terrifying existence standing at the top of the whole sea. Between the two, the gap is not generally far. It's just that for these small officials, it is quite rare for Stan and others to kneel. This is also the first time they see the arrogant and strong Stander kneeling down and apologizing to a person. No wonder, after all, the person he provoked was Liang. Kneel down and apologize. If they can save their own lives, they will not turn back. Don't say it is them, even me, I will not be an exception. It's only blame. They themselves have provoked people they can't afford, but they can't blame others. Originally, it was only Belodo's trouble, but they insisted on getting involved. This is asking for trouble. Berodo was killed by the monster Liang. Even Berodo's father had nothing to do. The enemy he faced was Liang, and there was nothing anyone could do. Quote. There was a lot of talk, and they were talking in a low voice with amazement on their faces. At this time, Wei Wei looked at Stan who knelt down and apologized. Her beautiful eyes flashed a bit of pity. She sighed silently, and said nothing. It can only be said that people like Stander are the troubles they are looking for. If they hadn't gotten involved in Doberodo's troubles, they wouldn't have been so. But everything is unpredictable. Lord Liang, can you spare our lives? We really know we're wrong, we shouldn't threaten you. We have no eyes, so you can let us go. Stan looked at Liang, hopeful. Liang looked down at a few people from a high position, his face was calm, and he said, do you have any resentment in your hearts? Don't dare. Stan hurriedly shook his head, startled. The rest of the middle-aged men also shook their heads, not daring to say a word. Just kidding, resentment towards Liang. This cost them their lives, and after going through the current situation, they didn't dare to be so arrogant. As for whether to retaliate against Liang, they didn't even dare to think about this idea. The level gap between the two is too far, so they have only deep fear, but no revenge and resentment, just want to honestly escape this disaster. Facing Liang, their whole hearts were cold. Whether it can escape is also unknown. However, they have to do their best to change all that. Any punishment, they also recognized, just prayed that Liang would not kill them. That's all, they were satisfied. You asked me to kneel and apologize, and now, I'm asking you to kneel and apologize. It's fair to go back and forth, isn't it? What do you say? Liang spoke again and said. Fair, fair enough. Stan and the others nodded and said quickly. How dare they say it's unfair? Liang's terrifying strength is in front of him, and the other party asks them, they just nod their heads. As for other things, they can't allow them to make their own decisions. Get up. Liang glanced at Stander and said. Chapter 653 _ The Belated Cobra. Liang glanced at Stander and said. Thank you Lord Liang, thank you Lord Liang. Stand and the others quickly thanked them and stood up, their expressions full of excitement. If they just kneel down and apologize, they will admit it. Although, this will be seen by the people around, and it will also become a picture of them being ridiculed for a lifetime. However, kneeling in front of Liang, they didn't think it was a shame. If the person kneeling is an ordinary person, they will feel ashamed. However, this person is Liang, so there is no such thing as shame. Being able to save his life is already a great luck. I haven't said I want to let you go. Liang's eyes flashed and he said slowly. Ah. The excitement of Stander and others stopped abruptly, and they looked at Liang with a dull face, and the fear in their hearts came to their hearts again. Isn't it that simple? Then, what kind of punishment will you suffer? Thinking of this, each of them became very nervous and anxious. The other side. A group of Alabasta officials also watched the changes on the scene with their eyes focused without blinking. They looked forward intently, for fear of missing a single detail. Wei Wei's pretty face moved slightly, hesitated for a moment, and said softly, Mr. Liang. Princess Wei Wei, don't worry, I'm not going to take their lives. Liang smiled, glanced at Wei Wei, and said, this is because Princess Wei Wei speaks for them, so I will show mercy. Diaresis thanks a lot, Mr. Liang. Wei Wei's delicate face showed a bit of blush, and she whispered. For a time, Liang was attracted by Wei Wei's face. The pure and flawless delicate facial features, the skin is like jade, the snow white reveals a crimson, plus the wavy sky blue hair, the pink back is thrown, and she is wearing a white skirt. Standing here, the whole person is quite prominent, like a flawless angel, innocent and innocent. Mr. Liang, is it because people forgive Uncle Stander? Wei Wei's heart was like a little rabbit, beating constantly, her pretty face was slightly red, her beautiful eyes were absent-minded, she was thinking more and more, and she became more and more shy. Hancock, Tautu, and Tina on the chairs noticed the fluctuations in Wei Wei's expression, and a smile appeared on their delicate faces. This bad guy has managed to charm a little girl again. Among us, there is another sister. However, this sister seems to be very young, and she looks very innocent, Li Lihao, but she is really cheap for this bad guy. Several people smiled, a delicate face, and a beautiful incomparable thing. Their eyes were fixed on Liang in front of them, waiting for the other party to deal with them. Just a minister of an ordinary kingdom. For them, this is just some ordinary small roles. Not to mention Liang, any of them can deal with these ordinary ministers. Suddenly, a voice came out, echoing around. In this quiet environment, it is very prominent. King Cobra is here. Immediately, there was a sensation in the crowd. Everyone whose eyes were fixed on Liang shifted their targets and looked away. In their sight, they saw a middle-aged man who was very healthy, striding forward, with a rosy face and no signs of illness. This person, of course, is the late Cobra. Chapter 654-Peaceful Ending. Seeing Cobra's appearance, everyone was excited. King Cobra is here, get out of the way, get out of the way. How will things develop this time? My God, there are more and more people. No, it's beyond our imagination. ... Everyone sighed and talked to each other. They all gave way, allowing Cobra's figure to gradually appear in the central venue of the dinner party. Cobra, who had just arrived at the venue, raised his brows and asked, "What's going on? You all seem to be in a bad mood. What happened?" Beside him, Ekolem was also accompanied. The two looked at the people around them with puzzled faces, feeling deep doubts. Atmosphere, very wrong. They, who had just arrived here, immediately noticed it. Lord King Cobra, it's the way it is. A young man gritted his teeth and quickly stood up to tell the truth about what happened just now. Knowing the whole story, Cobra gave a wry smile. He also desperately wanted to drag Liang to the palace, just to avoid some people who didn't have long eyes to provoke Liang and cause big trouble. But looking at it now, his plan was directly in vain. 770 did not expect that troubles would inevitably occur here in the palace. Fortunately, things didn't reach the point of being irreconcilable. Barodo, the only son of Sade Road. This guy is really worrying. This time, his son has died, so he is about to carry out his so-called secret plan. Cobra's eyes narrowed slightly, thinking so. This guy Sade Road is not as simple as it looks on the surface. However, in Alabasta, he had to sit honestly as ordered by Cobra. Taking advantage of this incident, Cobra decided that he was going to act. To prevent Thad Road from being in front of him, he must act first. After dealing with the matter here, you have to act decisively. Think of this. Cobra stared at the scene in front of him and smiled wryly. Stand, you are really going to cause me such a big trouble. It's not good to provoke anyone, but you provoke Liang. Isn't this asking for trouble? The corners of Cobra's mouth moved slightly and said helplessly. However, Stander's credit is very obvious, so Cobra can't watch helplessly those who have contributed to Alabasta die in front of him. Immediately, in the sight of everyone, Cobra walked to Liang's position step by step. From a long distance, he opened his mouth and greeted with a smile, "Mr. Liang, good evening." "King Cobra," Liang said with a calm face and a faint smile. "Sorry, I'm late." Listening to their explanations, I understand the whole story. This guy Belado is dead when he dies, and I just turn a blind eye to what he does. That's all. And now, when he provokes you, Mr. Liang, and was killed, he can only blame him for being ignorant. His relationship with you, Mr. Liang, is not very big. ... After a few words, Cobra quickly cleared all of Liang's sins. This made several middle-aged people in Stander smile bitterly, but they didn't dare to speak. Not because of Cobra, but because of Liang. Cobra's majesty is sufficient, but compared to Liang, it is far from enough. They feared Leon, not Cobra. King Cobra, it seems that your condition has been completely cured. Liang's eyes flickered and he chuckled. Thanks to your medical skills, Mr. Liang, I have lived a second life. It can be said that without you, I am afraid that I will have to survive the rest of my life. Chapter 654-Peaceful Ending. Thanks to your medical skills, Mr. Liang, I have lived a second life. It can be said that without you, I am afraid that I will have to survive the rest of my life." Cobra smiled with deep gratitude. After waking up from a rest, he felt a change in his body. All the pain is gone. All this was brought by Liang, so his gratitude to Liang was like a surging river. I have to admit that Liang's medical skills shocked him too much. The symptoms that so many doctors could not treat were in Liang's hands, but within a day, they were cured immediately. Isn't this a fairy-like method? For Liang's medical skills, Cobra still expressed deep admiration. Now, he has finally regained the physical strength and vitality of his age. Unlike in the past, when he was old, weak, sick and disabled, he had to be supported when he walked. Moreover, before taking 2 steps, he was out of breath and needed a rest. Such a body made him disgust himself. If it weren't for Weiwei's concern, he would have passed away long ago, and he would not have dragged his heavy body. But fortunately, it is because of persistence. Therefore, he could meet Liang and carry out a new recovery. Your own persistence is also an important factor. Liang said slowly with a smile. Mr. Liang, how do you think this matter needs to be handled? Cobra looked at Stand and the others, then fixed his gaze on Liang, and asked in a low voice. How to deal with it? Liang thought for a while and said, then, I don't know King Cobra, what advice do you have? I don't dare to give advice, but if Mr. Liang trusts me, I will definitely handle it for you. I don't know, what do you think, Mr. Liang? Cobra took a deep breath and asked tentatively. If Liang doesn't give face, it's useless for him to say anything. Since King Cobra has said so, I naturally want to give you some thin noodles. After all, it's not my style to be so arrogant as a newcomer. Liang said with a smile. Thank you Mr. Liang for your understanding. Cobra heaved a sigh of relief, and Liang finally gave him some face. Of course, all of this was based on his very respectful attitude towards Liang from the very beginning. If it wasn't for these, what kind of king would Liang care about? Just kidding. Where is the king who can make Liang save face? Cobra looked at Stand and the others in front of him, sighed, and said solemnly, Stand, you insulted Mr. Liang first. Therefore, you must be mentally prepared for the punishment I will punish you next. King Cobra, please say that we will strictly abide by the punishment, and nothing else. Stand and the others nodded quickly and said. They were also relieved. If they were dealt with in Liang's hands, they would still be frightened. But if Cobra punished them, at least they wouldn't endanger their own lives. Therefore, the fear in their hearts has also been slightly reduced. Good. Cobra nodded. I will assign you to leave the capital and go to the small town of Sana for 3 years of governance. Do you agree? Allocating to leave the capital means that they no longer have their previous status. This made the 3 of them bitter, but they nodded. Agree. Can they disagree? In contrast, if they were punished by Liang, they would be afraid. Mr. Liang, look. Cobra looked at Liang, and asked a little nervously. That's it. Liang waved his hand and said. He didn't want to kill Stander either. Since Cobra dealt with it like this, it would be better to leave it to the other party to deal with it. In the beginning, he just wanted to make these people kneel and apologize, and he didn't think too much about it. Chapter 655_admired. Thank you, Mr. Liang. Cobra breathed a sigh of relief and said very respectfully. Liang is obviously giving him face, he must do it properly, and he must not fail Liang's trust in him. This is Liang. Whether it's the other party's terrible medical skills, or the other party's identity and status, there is no harm in having a good relationship with the other party, this is what he thinks in his heart. Aside. Weiwei also quietly exhaled, her pretty face blushed slightly, and she lowered her head, looking very charming. She glanced at Liang's figure with her beautiful eyes, and her pretty face became more and more rosy. She didn't know what to think of. The whole snow-white pretty face became red and bloodshot with dissatisfaction. The blushing face in white is even more attractive. Stand, you all go. Go get ready, tomorrow we'll be leaving soon. Cobra looked at Stand and the others and said lightly. Yes, King Cobra. Stander sighed in despair and nodded. Immediately. In the public eye. The few of them left the banquet step by step, their backs full of despair. If it weren't for what happened today, they would still be the dazzling ministers in the capital, attracting much attention and being admired by countless people. However, because they only offended one person tonight, their future was bleak. It was like a play, and everyone couldn't help but sigh. Strength. Absolutely. Li Ang's terrifying strength made no one dare to say more. It can only be thought that Stander and others, out of their own capacity, provoked such a terrifying monster without authorization. This is their own misfortune, and they brought it on themselves. Seeing the backs of Stander and the others, they gradually disappeared into the banquet hall. The people present were sighed. Life is full of ups and downs, and changes are unpredictable. One moment ago, he was still the minister of the kingdom, and the next moment, it was the end of the road. Life is like a play. Fortunately, I didn't provoke that monster. Originally, I was still a little excited. This guy Bellido is also a coward. He will die if he dies. I heard that he often provokes some good women in Alabasta on weekdays. It is only because of his father that there has been no one so far can punish him. It's good, he's finally provoked a terrible monster. Now, not only will he suffer, but his sinister father will suffer too. Quote. A group of people started talking and talking. The entire dinner was accompanied by the departure of Stander and others. It seems that the atmosphere of the past has been restored. However, everyone involuntarily looked in Li Ang's direction, their expressions full of fear. Li Ang's name shocked everyone's heart, so that they couldn't forget it if they wanted to. This name has some kind of magical nature, and it is terrifying and outrageous. Everyone. Cobra stood in the center of the field, clapped his palms, and said. Everyone stopped talking and looked at Cobra's position with puzzled faces. King Cobra, what do you want to say? However, King Cobra, was it really the monster Li Ang who healed? How does it feel? So unreal. Everyone couldn't believe that Li Ang possessed such terrifying medical skills. With such a powerful strength, he still possesses tyrannical medical skills. So, what else is there that the monster Li Ang can't do? Chapter 655 highly admired. With such a powerful strength, he still possesses tyrannical medical skills. So, what else is there that the monster Li Ang can't do? Everyone was in a bitter mood. How could there be such a big gap between people? Li Ang, as expected of a monster. Almighty monster, proficient at anything. The symptoms that countless doctors were helpless were treated by Li Ang in less than a day. How terrifying must his medical skills be? Everyone was in high spirits and looked at Cobra. They could already conclude that King Cobra's symptoms were definitely cured. Otherwise, how can it be so healthy? In the past, King Cobra needed to breathe constantly when he walked, but now, that rough voice was full of energy. How could it be seen that he was sick? Everyone, let me introduce you. I believe that everyone in the room should already know the news of my recovery. Before that, I have to thank someone solemnly. And this person, you should already know. That's right. This person, of course, is Mr. Li Ang. Cobra pointed in Li Ang's direction, and Lang smiled. In an instant, everyone's eyes turned to Li Ang's position with respect and admiration on their faces. Flowers. Li Ang. A terrifying monster with terrifying strength, peerless medical skills, and the ability to control sea kings. This person is a myth of the world, which everyone admires but cannot catch up with. No one can chase after his back, all they see are the footprints he left behind. Li Ang. Everyone invariably looked at Li Ang's body. In addition to fear, the expression on his face was deep respect. The strong will be respected, this is understandable. As for Li Ang, he is the strongest among the strong, and it is normal that he is respected by others. This dinner was held for Mr. Liang. In addition to celebrating my illness, there was also a welcome to Mr. Liang to come to Alabasta. Mr. Liang can come to a small place like our Alabasta, which really makes us Alabasta flourish. Everyone, we welcome Mr. Liang with warm applause. Cobra said with excitement and excitement. The words just fell. The thunderous applause swept the audience. Welcome Mr. Liang. Welcome Mr. Liang to Alabasta. A group of people looked at Liang, their blood boiled, and shouted. This man is a myth of the world. How could they disrespect? It's been a long time since I admired Liang. It's just that I've never seen myself. And today, a small wish in their hearts was finally fulfilled. Before, they all saw Liang from the newspapers. Today, their dreams have finally come true. The fierce applause came from his ears. Liang looked at Cobra with a smile and shook his head helplessly. He doesn't want to be so solemn. However, this guy Cobra has detonated the atmosphere. Even if he wants to control it, there is nothing he can do. Seeing Cobra's enthusiastic appearance, Liang couldn't refuse. Feeling the intensity of the atmosphere, Liang's eyes twinkled brightly and with a smile, he sat on the chair. Beside him, Hancock, Tautu, and Tina's beautiful eyes were fixed on Liang's body. Their delicate and pretty faces showed sweet smiles, and they felt extremely proud in their hearts. Their husbands are so popular, they are naturally very happy. Chapter 656_Cobra's thoughts. After the welcome was over, Cobra also gradually announced that everyone had successfully entered the dinner party. Everyone was chatting happily, and the whole dinner party was lively. Barodo's death, and the dismissal of Stand and others, left a deep impression on everyone. However, after this lively atmosphere, these impressions were gradually forgotten. Now they are talking with the surrounding officials excitedly. At this time, Liang sat on a chair, holding a glass of red wine in his hand, smiling, feeling the lively atmosphere. His eyes narrowed slightly, his expression very comfortable and relaxed. In the chatter of Hancock, Tautu, and Tina, I don't know what they are talking about. Anyway, I can always find a topic and continue to communicate. Not far. Cobra carried Ecolem, walked step by step, smiled respectfully. Mr. Liang. Kubu, 040, pulls the king, you are too serious. It's hard for me to attract so many people's attention. Liang stood up and said with a smile. Mr. Liang, with your ability, are you still afraid of these things? I just let everyone know your identity, so that these guys will not be reckless as always. Cobra gave a wry smile, recalling the Stern who was fired just now, and the dead Belodo, and he couldn't help but sigh. It is not a pity for Belodo to die, but Stander and others also have real materials. But because he provoked Liang, he was directly dispatched to a poor town to manage. 3 years later, I don't know what Alabasta will be like. Therefore, his actions directly ruined the future of Stand and others. Even if the 3-year deadline is up, if you want to return to the capital to restore its former glory, you have to ask Cobra's opinion and whether the other party's ability has regressed. In the vast majority of cases, Cobra will let the other party retire and return home, in order to ensure that the other party can enjoy his old age and avoid some unnecessary troubles. No one knows what Stander and others are thinking. What if, once the other party resumes his previous identity, it will be unfavorable to Alabasta. Therefore, Cobra must be treated with caution. You're serious. Liang's face was calm and he said directly. By the way, Mr. Liang, I have something here that I need to discuss with you. I don't know, do you have time now? Cobra's eyes flashed, and he looked at Ecolem beside him calmly, and said in a low voice. Both seem to have a plan. It's just that I don't know if Liang will accept it. Let's go then. Liang said with a smile. Mr. Liang, please. After Cobra nodded, he led Liang, and the two gradually left the dinner party. And Ecolem also stayed in the banquet. Not far away. Wearing a white skirt, Wei Wei walked to Hancock and the others step by step. Her pretty face blushed slightly, and she politely said, "Hello, sisters. It's Princess Wei Wei. That bad guy just left. There's a space left, you can sit down and we can chat." Hancock's pink lips were slightly parted, and he said with a sweet smile, "Yeah." Wei Wei blushed pretty, tidied up her skirt, and sat down gracefully. It's just that her mood was pounding, as if she was as nervous as facing a big man. Chapter 656 Cobra's Thoughts. Not far from the dinner party, there is a small lake. This is specially built in the palace and exists as a play and viewing. Li Ang was brought here. Cobra stopped, looked in the direction of the banquet, calmed down a little, and looked at Li Ang with a smile. "Mr. Li Ang, I don't know, what do you think about my daughter Wei Wei?" "How? What do you think of Princess Wei Wei?" Li Ang's eyes flashed, showing a surprised expression, said, "That's right." Cobra nodded solemnly and said, "Mr. Li Ang thinks, does my daughter, Wei Wei, have your eye?" Princess Wei Wei has a beautiful face, a tall stature, and she is pure like a charming little angel. I think no one should hate her. The corners of Li Ang's mouth moved slightly, and he smiled lightly. Hearing this, Cobra's smile grew brighter. But no matter how you look at it, his smile always feels a little intriguing. "Then, King Cobra, what do you mean by this?" Li Ang continued to ask with a smile on his face. "Of course, I want to test your tone. Can I understand that Mr. Li Ang has a certain affection for my daughter Wei Wei?" Cobra smiled meaningfully and said, "Do you like it? A beautiful little angel like Princess Wei Wei. I think, if I say it, I must have a good impression." Li Ang had some guesses in his heart, but he didn't expect that Cobra would come to test his words in person. Originally, he thought he needed to take the initiative to attack. But looking at it this way, it seems that it is not necessary. As Vivi's father, Cobra was even more urgent than him. "Mr. Li Ang, if you don't mind, let me introduce you to Wei Wei's past, right?" Cobra said with a bit of pity in his eyes, lost in thought. "Of course." Li Ang nodded, not disturbing Cobra's mood swings. Immediately after, Cobra started the introduction. "Vivi has no mother since she was a child, so I brought her up. She is innocent and lively, she is bright and reasonable, she is caring and so on. But, I know, she needs another kind of love besides fatherly love. Quote. She is easily sad, and she is easily hurt by the casual remarks of the people she cares about. Her heart, like a bird, is very fragile. On weekdays, the Wei Wei I see is strong. But she also has a soft place in her heart. In fact, she is not strong, she is very weak. It's just that the experience of growing up makes her have to put the real emotions, concealed in the heart." Quote. Quote. After a few words. The crescent moon on the horizon, the halo has become more and more dim. I didn't expect that Wei Wei's experience would be so sad. On the surface, she was a princess, but her experience was much more difficult than that of more ordinary people. Li Ang sighed and said slowly. Yes, because Wei Wei has no mother since she was a child, I care about her in every possible way. But in the end, she has grown up. I can't accompany her for the rest of my life. So, I have to find someone I trust to accompany her for the rest of my life. Instead of my father, give her meticulous care. And this person is you, Mr. Li Ang. Cobra fixed his eyes on Li Ang and said, after my observation, I still recognize your character, Mr. Li Ang. If you, Mr. Li Ang, as Wei Wei's lifelong partner, I will be very at ease. Quote. I don't know, Mr. Li Ang, what are your thoughts? Can you tell me one or two things conveniently? It also gives me a bottom line. Chapter 657_clear. Finished talking. Cobra looked at Li Ang intently, waiting for the other party's answer. With a look of anticipation on his face, he couldn't even wait to know Li Ang's answer. Finding a life partner for your daughter is naturally a matter of caution. He believes that Liang is definitely the most suitable candidate, so he will say these words. I don't know what Liang thinks. If Liang is not interested, even if he has 1,000 words in his heart, he will not be able to speak. However, he believes that Liang should not refuse. Her own daughter, Wei Wei, is so beautiful and moving. Could it be that there is really a man who can refuse? But Liang in front of him is no ordinary person. King Cobra, at your age, you can protect Vivi for a longer period of time. Why are you in such a hurry? This, I really want to know. Liang narrowed his eyes slightly and asked. Cobra was too anxious. Therefore, the curiosity in his heart is also very strong. Are you in a hurry? Cobra was dumbfounded and gave a wry smile. Can I say, do I admire you too much? I'm afraid that Vivi will miss this village and there will be no such shop. If Vivi needs to find a partner, I think this person, definitely 23U. You are too good, and you also have absolute strength. You can protect Wei Wei for a lifetime. Therefore, I think you are the most suitable candidate. After getting Cobra's answer, Liang suddenly nodded and said, that's it. The answer is, are you too good? Cobra couldn't wait to bind him to Vivi. I didn't expect such a good thing. The corners of Liang's mouth curled up slightly, showing a smile. Originally, he planned to take the initiative to attack, but unexpectedly, Cobra gave him this opportunity directly. Then, Mr. Liang, what is your answer? Cobra asked, with a dry throat. If I can, I am willing to shelter Wei Wei for the rest of my life. Liang raised his head and said with a smile. Good. Cobra's face was full of excitement and excitement. In the end, it is certain to know that Mr. Liang also has ideas for his daughter Wei Wei. In this case, everything is ready. Wei Wei has a crush on Liang, he can tell. It's just that I don't know if Liang has a crush on Wei Wei. Today, it's finally confirmed. Since both of them have a good impression of each other, wouldn't things come naturally? However, you have to add some heat. At the very least, a good environment must be created for Wei Wei and Liang to talk alone. Thought here. Cobra's expression became more and more excited, and he had already thought of the things about bringing children to Vivi in the future. Seeing Cobra's expression, Liang was speechless. What a yearning for Wei Wei to marry. However, this also shows from the side that Liang himself is quite excellent. If it was just an ordinary person, how could Cobra give his beloved daughter to him? Only someone like Liang who deserves recognition can make Cobra completely at ease. Mr. Liang, before that, I have to tell you something from my heart. Cobra's eyes showed a bit of sadness, said. All of a sudden excited, all of a sudden excited, all of a sudden sad. This change in expression made Liang a little stunned. However, I can understand Cobra's mood. It is also a very sad thing to personally send one's own daughter to another man. Chapter 657_clear. NGT, page 1/2. Please click the next page to continue reading. However, I can understand Cobra's mood. It is also a very sad thing to personally send one's own daughter to another man. King Cobra, please speak. Liang nodded and said. You shouldn't call me King Cobra anymore. Cobra said with a smile. Hearing this, Liang was taken aback, nodded and smiled. Yes, Mr. Cobra. I'll just call you by your first name. Cobra's mouth moved slightly and said. Nature. Liang nodded without any objection. Immediately afterwards, Cobra opened his mouth and said, Vivi is a very fragile little girl, and she is afraid of the dark at night, so there are a lot of puppets in her room. There are also countless table lamps in her room. Open when you sleep. Quote. Of course, in the future, she will have your company. Then, there will be no such thing. But, I still want to remind you. Wei Wei is easily moved by the words of the person she cares about, for example, if you are her partner. Then, your words and deeds may, inadvertently, hurt her. So, I hope you can be more keep an eye on her. Although, I know that there are many different women around you, all of them are very good. However, here I implore you to treat Wei Wei kindly. Quote. It will certainly be. Li Ang nodded seriously. If Wei Wei was his woman, he would naturally be afraid of melting in his hands. Treating any of his women, such as Hancock, Tautu, etc., he has never ignored each other. Therefore, the same is true for Wei Wei, and she will not favor anyone. However, is it too early to talk about this now? This made Li Ang feel a little weird. It seems that Cobra has talked about such a far-reaching issue before the 8 characters have been written. Sure enough, fatherly love. While Cobra was very relieved, he was also very worried. If, after handing over Wei Wei to Li Ang, how will the other party treat Wei Wei? These are all very worried about him. Before that, he had to explain clearly to Li Ang. After some words, Li Ang and Cobra also talked for more than half an hour. Finally, 073 with a smile on his face, Cobra said, Li Ang, you may not know why Wei Wei feels very shy when she sees you, right? Indeed. Li Ang nodded, he still didn't get the answer to this doubt. He didn't think that his charm was so huge that Wei Wei was instantly infatuated with it. That's because you saved my life. Cobra exhaled heavily and said the truth. Saved your life. Li Ang was still puzzled and asked, what does this have to do with Wei Wei? It's a big relationship. Maybe the key to your relationship with her is here. Because, Wei Wei once made a promise. As long as anyone who can save me, she will make a promise. It's because of this that you saved my life. And Wei Wei, she likes you again, at least she doesn't hate you. Coupled with various reasons, she is very shy when she sees you. Maybe, even she thinks that you are her future life partner. Cobra smiled and explained everything clearly. This moment, Li Ang made it clear. It turned out that the truth of the matter is actually like this. That's really fortunate that he saved Cobra on a whim. Otherwise, it is not so simple to capture Wei Wei's heart. But after these things, it would be much easier to capture Wei Wei's heart. Chapter 658 Wei Wei's shame. Emotions are like this. No wonder, Wei Wei blushed when she saw herself. This ridiculous little girl hasn't said it yet. Do you think it's too shy? The corner of Li Ang's mouth twitched, thinking so. Okay, Li Ang, I've told you a lot. Next, I'll leave it to you. Wei Wei is a fragile little girl, you have to take the initiative. I know her. She is just a blank sheet of paper in this regard, so you have to go out in person to really grab her hand. Cobra waved his hand and said slowly. Leave it to me. Li Ang nodded and said with a smile. Go back, I think, this little girl, Wei Wei, must be desperately looking for you. Her affection for you is not as simple as it was at the beginning. After a period of precipitation, I think her impression of you is getting deeper and deeper. Her good impression of you is also getting stronger and stronger. Cobra pointed to the dinner party ahead and smiled. Farewell. Li Ang nodded, moved his footsteps, and left step by step. The rest of Cobra, standing in place. Ikaram also walked step by step, and asked curiously, Lord Cobra, how is it? You're done. Cobra's eyes flickered, and he laughed, saying, Mr. Li Ang, it seems that he also likes Princess Wei Wei. Ikaram also smiled and said. ... Li Ang returned to the dinner smoothly, and at the same time, recalling Cobra's excited expression, he couldn't help laughing. This father is quite interesting. In order to find a good husband for her daughter, I don't know how many gray hairs I worry about. Wei Wei herself is not in a hurry, but Cobra herself can't wait. Then, next, I should go on the offensive. Li Ang smiled and looked at Hancock and others not far away. Beside Hancock, sitting a beautiful woman in a white skirt, pure like an angel, with a delicate white face and a bit of blush, was talking with Hancock and others with a smile. What a happy family. Li Ang narrowed his eyes slightly, and said with a smile. Seeing that Wei Wei and Hancock and others came up with such a harmonious idea, he was really relieved. If there is a disagreement, the most difficult person is himself. Therefore, it is also commendable that Wei Wei can integrate into it. At this time, Li Ang walked in the direction of Hancock and Wei Wei step by step. He may have felt Li Ang's footsteps. Hancock and others watched. With a swish, Wei Wei's pretty face turned red for a while. Her beautiful eyes had a somewhat shy look, her delicate jade-like face, rosy in white, and infinitely charming. Mr. Li, Li Ang. Wei Wei stood up all of a sudden, bowed, and said shyly, "I'm very sorry for taking your place. I'll go first." "Wait a minute." Li Ang spoke directly, preventing Wei Wei from escaping. Wei Wei, who was about to leave, stopped here, turned around, blushed and lowered her head. Her sky-blue hair covered her cheeks, shy like a little girl. What's the matter?" Wei Wei's voice became more and more subtle, like a mosquito. If it wasn't for Li Ang's sensitive hearing, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to hear what Wei Wei was about to say. Chapter 658 Wei Wei's shame. If it wasn't for Li Ang's sensitive hearing, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to hear what Wei Wei was about to say. "Sit down, I'll just stand." Li Ang pointed to the vacant chair and smiled. "Yeah." With a blushing face, Wei Wei adjusted her skirt again and sat down gracefully. "You bastard, make everyone's face so red." Hancock's beautiful eyes rolled his eyes, his long eyelashes trembled, and said. Seeing Wei Wei's blushing face, she already knew. This innocent and lively cute little princess has already fallen into it. Tautu and Tina chuckled and said, "Wei Wei, you don't have to be nervous. We had a good chat just now, why are you nervous?" "Yeah." Wei Wei nodded, but it was still difficult to hide the crimson of that delicate face. Out of the corner of her beautiful eyes, she glanced at Li Ang, who was beside her. Sitting on the chair, she felt very uncomfortable. "By the way, what were you talking about just now?" Li Ang stood in the middle of Wei Wei and Hancock and smiled. "What are you talking about?" Hancock's pretty face was slightly red, and his delicate facial features, like the clouds in the sky, were indescribably beautiful. Her red lips parted slightly, and she glanced at Li Ang with a little shyness, and said, "Why should we tell you?" "Hancock, you've learned badly, you weren't like this before." Li Ang directly rubbed Hancock's hair and said pitifully. "Puff." Wei Wei burst into laughter, seeing Li Ang's pitiful appearance. She was really eye-opening. Unexpectedly, in the eyes of people, Li Ang is regarded as a godlike terrifying god. Actually, there is such a cute side. This made Wei Wei unable to hold back her smile, and her delicate face showed a rosy color, showing on her face, like 100 flowers blooming, beautiful and moving. However, her smile came to an abrupt end. Because she found that the eyes of Li Ang, Hancock, Tautu and others were all focused on her face, which made her smile a little stiff. In an instant, a flush of blood rushed to her forehead, and Wei Wei's face was flushed, like a red apple that was ripe, making Li Ang want to take a bite. "Diaresis, what are you doing?" Wei Wei blushed and whispered. "Look at you, the way you laughed just now is so beautiful. It's like an angel." Tina showed a smile and said. "No, the three sisters are the angels. I'm still a long way off." Wei Wei shook her sky-blue hair and said with a blushing face. "Look, I'm shy." Hancock chuckled and said. Tautu also continued, "What is it that makes our lovely Princess Wei Wei become so shy?" "Yes, this is rare." Immediately, Wei Wei's beautiful eyes glanced at Li Ang. Her beautiful eyes turned, her mood could not be calmed down, like a little rabbit who didn't know the way, colliding randomly. "We understand." Hancock, Tautu, and Tina all showed narrow smiles, looked at Wei Wei meaningfully, and said. Me, I ignore you." Wei Wei's beautiful eyes were shy, looking at the smiles of the three Hancocks. She always felt that everything she was thinking about seemed to be seen, making her even more shy. Let me see, the lovely and charming Princess Wei Wei, how can she be shy? The corner of Li Ang's mouth raised an arc, and he smiled. He stretched out his hand and touched Wei Wei's white jade-like forehead, feeling the touch of the delicate skin, and his smile grew brighter. Wei Wei's pretty face turned red, her beautiful eyes dodged, but she didn't avoid Li Ang's palm. The touch made her feel even more shy, and her whole body became a little stiff. Chapter 659-Inexplicable Hostility. Okay, don't make fun of the innocent and cute little girl. Princess Wei Wei is very pure. If you follow a bad guy like you, I'm afraid that it will be broken in a few days. Yes, strong protest. Protest. Hancock, Tautu, and Tina all looked at Li Ang and said bluntly. Protest is ineffective. Li Ang waved his hand and said directly. He rubbed Wei Wei's sky blue silky soft hair with both hands. It felt wonderful and soft to the touch. Wei Wei, on the other hand, was as docile as a little girl. Her delicate face was flushed, her head was lowered, she did not resist, and she could vaguely see a sweet smile on her pretty face. It's over, it's over. With that exaggerated expression, Tautu said, even Princess Wei Wei's little angel was spoiled by the bad guy Li Ang. No way. Wei Wei blushed and whispered. Look, Princess Wei Wei is shy again. Hancock also showed a smile and said. The four peerless beauties mingled together without seeing any gap at all. This picture really moved everyone. 23. Four beautiful women, standing with the same person, laughing and laughing, the crisp laughter, beautiful face, it feels like a dream. Crowd not far away. Occasionally, there are still people watching, full of amazement. So beautiful. The four women simply contracted everyone's attention at the entire dinner party. And finally, everyone's eyes were fixed on Li Ang again, with complex expressions, envy, extremes, admiration, and so on. After all, this is Li Ang. The crowd sighed and said. Only Li Ang has such great ability. Even Princess Wei Wei was captured, and it was obvious that Princess Wei Wei was fascinated by Li Ang. For them, this is not something to be astonished about. Some of them also had some ideas in their minds. If they were women, maybe they would be moved by Li Ang. Not to mention the women at the scene. A large group of middle-aged beautiful women looked at Li Ang's figure, full of admiration and shame. If Li Ang does not refuse to come, I am afraid that there are at least 20 middle-aged beautiful women here, who will secretly give Li Ang their contact information. Unfortunately, Li Ang was used to seeing such peerless beauties as Hancock and Wei Wei, and he no longer looked down on those so-called middle-aged beauties. Therefore, some beautiful women secretly hurt themselves. The dinner is still going on. The area between Li Ang, Hancock, Wei Wei and others formed an absolute vacuum. Basically, no one dared to approach this surrounding area. Only Li Ang and the others were talking to each other. As for Wei Wei, her face was always blushing, unable to dispel her shyness. It's just that she is much better than she was shy and unable to speak at first. At least, when Hancock and others are stepping on their feet, she can occasionally say a few words. For her, this is also very rare. Later, you will get used to it. Li Ang thought to himself, the smile on his face became brighter and brighter. Anyway, Wei Wei was destined to belong to him, and she didn't care about the time. Shyness can be corrected. After a long time of contact, Wei Wei's shyness will gradually improve. Mr. Li Ang, what did your father tell you just now? Wei Wei's beautiful eyes flashed, and she asked with a bit of shyness. You really want to know? Li Ang's eyes twinkled brightly and asked with a smile. Yeah. Wei Wei blushed, nodded lightly, and said. Chapter 659-Inexplicable Hostility. Wei Wei blushed, nodded lightly, and said. Come closer then, and I'll tell you. Li Ang said with a smile. Immediately, Wei Wei's pretty face blushed, and her crystal-clear snow-white ears were brought closer to Li Ang. Her mood was pounding and she was quite nervous. She clenched her pink fist tightly, unable to hide her panic. Li Ang looked at Wei Wei's shy appearance, and couldn't help but smile, slightly interested. Wei Wei's little ears approached. Looking at the small and exquisite ears up close, Li Ang almost couldn't help but peck. Still held back. At present, it is not appropriate to make too intimate actions. Still have to, the cycle is gradual. Your father said that in the future, he will give you to me for protection. Li Ang breathed in Wei Wei's ear and smiled. With a swish, Wei Wei's pretty face turned red, she felt the numbness in her ears, and when she heard Li Ang's words again, her head was almost smoking. Her blushing was very prominent, and half of the sky was rosy on her delicate face. Even the neck that was as white as a white swan was gradually filled with ruddy blood. She glanced at Li Ang shyly, and quickly avoided her. Her beautiful eyes turned a little shy, and said, why don't you have a word of truth in your mouth? But, what I said is really true. Li Ang looked at Wei Wei's shy appearance, waved his hand, and said, I ignore you. Wei Wei snorted and said with pretty face flushing. At the same time, when Li Ang was about to continue speaking, he noticed that a look of extreme anger was staring at him. At this time, Li Ang frowned slightly, turned his head, and looked at a man in the crowd not far away, who was looking at him with inexplicable hostility. His eyes could clearly see the flames of anger. The man has short dark tea-green hair, a scar on his left eye, a long red-brown windbreaker, a dark green belt, orange gloves, and a super long sword on his back. Who is this person? Li Ang's face was calm and he spoke in a low voice. He didn't know this man at all. Why did he feel the hostility of the other party? This man's hostility seems to be targeted. Just for 353 him alone. So, why was such a strong hostility revealed in advance? Because of the move just now. The move just now, the intimate move with Wei Wei. Li Ang narrowed his eyes slightly, looked at Wei Wei, and said in a low voice, Wei Wei, do you know who that person is over there? Who is it? Wei Wei blushed, and the rosy redness on her pretty face still couldn't be erased. She tilted her head and looked into the crowd with her beautiful eyes. Following Li Ang's gaze, she saw a young man and nodded, I know him. Oh, who is he? Li Ang asked with a bit of curiosity. He's Kosha, my playmate when I was a kid. He used to lead me to explore many places. Wei Wei's pink lips parted slightly and explained. Kosha, childhood playmate, so it is. Li Ang suddenly realized. No wonder the enemy's hostility is so strong. Immediately, Li Ang stared at Wei Wei and asked solemnly, then. Do you like him? Huh. Wei Wei's beautiful eyes widened, her face full of shock. She shook her head and said, I always treat him like a big brother. One more word. She didn't say it. She looked at Li Ang's face. Her beautiful eyes were firm. She bit her pink lips, hesitating, whether to say it or not. Her heart was tangled. The person people like is actually you idiot, big idiot. Chapter 660-Kosha. Think of this. Wei Wei's pretty face was blushing. She glanced at Li Ang's face inadvertently, lowered her head shyly, her delicate face was flushed, and she looked very awkward. Myself, why would you think so? So embarrassing. Fortunately, I didn't say it just now. Otherwise, how would Li Ang see himself? Do you think you are too casual? However, people are not such casual people. Wei Wei's heart was numb, her sky blue hair curled up under the breeze, covering her face, completely blocking her delicate and flawless face. I see. The corners of Li Ang's mouth were slightly raised. Looking at Wei Wei's appearance, he understood and smiled. What's the matter? Wei Wei blushed and asked in a low voice. Her voice, like a mosquito, was very subtle. If it weren't for Li Ang's sensitive hearing, I'm afraid it would be difficult to hear clearly. She was too shy to show her natural demeanor in front of Li Ang. In front of others, she can take it easy. But I don't know why, when she faced Li Ang, she was very awkward, and she felt infinite shame. Even she herself didn't know why she had such a change. When he spoke, he even felt a little nervous and stuttered. "It's nothing, it's just that he's been looking at us all the time. I just want to know his identity. I didn't expect it to be Kosha." Liang narrowed his eyes slightly and said with a smile. "Who is Kosha?" When Crocidar still ruled Alabasta, Kosha was a rebel army, a tenacious fighter against Crocidar's rule. And when Crocodile was defeated, he became Alabasta's Minister of the Environment. This can be regarded as having an honorary position here in Alabasta. He and Wei Wei grew up together. No wonder the eyes were so angry just now. Liang knew it in his heart, but I was afraid that after seeing how close his relationship with Wei Wei was, there was an angry flame burning in his heart. From this point of view, Kosha's relationship with Wei Wei is more than just a brother-sister relationship. Liang's face was calm, countless thoughts flashed through his mind, and finally a confident smile appeared. But a pity. Even if they grew up together, Wei Wei's love for Kosha was only a brother and sister relationship, and there was no love between men and women at all. Seeing the expression on Wei Wei's face just now, Liang can be sure that if it's a relationship between a man and a woman, Wei Wei obviously treats him more deeply. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so shy in front of him. Isn't that the reason why you are nervous and shy, because you like it? Do you know Kosha? Wei Wei asked with a bit of surprise. Slightly heard. Liang nodded. I heard that Kosha was the leader of a rebel army and made a lot of contributions to save Alabasta. Later, he became the Minister of Environment of Alabasta. You've only heard a little about it. Wei Wei's beautiful eyes widened, round and round, her pretty blushing flushed, and she was extremely cute. She couldn't figure out why someone with Liang's identity would actually know about Kosha's existence. Could it be that Kosha is really so famous? Or is Alabasta's reputation too loud? She didn't know at all that Liang had an amount of information in his head that could be called a cheating device. At the beginning, it was just that Kosha looked familiar, but didn't recognize him. After Wei Wei's reminder, information about Kosha swept Liang's entire forehead. Chapter 660-Kosha. At the beginning, it was just that Kosha looked familiar, but didn't recognize him. After Wei Wei's reminder, information about Kosha swept Liang's entire forehead. Not to mention Kosha, even Ekolem, the palace housekeeper, such a small character, Liang has a lot of information about the other party in his head. Let's go over and say hi to him. Liang suggested with a smile, looking at Wei Wei's delicate crimson face. All right. Wei Wei nodded, feeling Liang's gaze on her face, causing her to bow her head shyly. Her sky blue hair slid down, and wearing a white skirt, she looked even more beautiful. Not far away. Seeing the intimacy between Liang and Wei Wei, Kosha gritted her teeth, her face full of anger, her eyes were burning with anger, and her fists were clenched. For Wei Wei, he must have a good impression. However, when he saw that Liang and Wei Wei were so close, all the hopes in his heart collapsed. What is the comparison with Liang? Thinking of this, he gave a wry smile, sighed and shook his head. Liang is so good, any man standing in front of each other will appear very ordinary and ordinary. Strength, status, that power. These, Liang is much taller than him. The most important thing is, obviously, he can see that, Wei Wei, the person he likes is Liang. But he was not reconciled, and he just gave up. I see. Liang took Wei Wei and the two of them and walked to Kosha's position step by step. The two were talking and laughing, Wei Wei's face flushed, and her nervousness gradually eased a little. Mei Mei looked at Liang beside her, showing her shyness. She was wearing a white dress. While walking, the breeze rolled up the blue hair of the sky, like a fairy from the dust. When she raised her hands and feet, she was full of fairy spirit, which made people beautiful. Unable to look directly. Diaresis Mr. Liang, do you remember what you said to me just now? Wei Wei's pretty face blushed slightly, and she said in a low voice. What? Liang asked with some doubts. What I said just now is more than a sentence or two, how can I still remember? Hearing this, Wei Wei's beautiful eyes were a little annoyed. She snorted, and said, "It's all right." "Oh, that's what you said, I understand." Li Ang's eyes flickered. Seeing Wei Wei's annoyed look, he laughed and said, "Is that sentence true? My father really said that." Wei Wei lowered her head and looked at her toes, infinitely shy. "Of course it's fake, I lied to you." The corners of Li Ang's mouth were slightly raised, and he said slowly, "Okay, you, Zhao's." Wei Wei's pretty face was annoyed, her delicate face was puffed up, her pink lips pursed, and her beautiful eyes glanced at Li Ang. "I lied to you, your father really said that. Then, are you going to do what your father said? I don't mind." Seeing Wei Wei's shy and angry look, Li Ang smiled again. "Humph." Wei Wei snorted, her pretty face flushed, and she didn't speak. It's just that her big eyes kept flowing on Li Ang's body, biting her pink lips lightly. Her beautiful eyes carried a bit of joy, and a happy emotion slowly flowed in her heart, but she didn't show it. "Your father, the king, wants to take care of his daughter for my whole life. So, who is this person? Princess Wei Wei, do you think this person will agree to let me take care of her for the rest of her life?" Li Ang pointed to something, looked at Wei Wei and asked with a smile. "Well, it depends on your performance." Wei Wei's face was flushed, her beautiful eyes flashed, and she said bluntly,